Our technology Bowman. All right, let's see. Got to let all that personal stuff out of the way. Now we're live on YouTube, so we're good as golden.
Would you like to read the disclaimer?
Sure thing.
Please, Mr.
All right, let me just get my piece of paper in front of me. All right. Good evening, everyone. So today's Tuesday, October 13th, 2020, 7 o'clock, regularly scheduled planning board meeting. The agenda for today's remote participation meeting. So in response to Governor Baker's declaration of a public health emergency and the related emergency executive order dated March 12th, 2020, the Everett Planning Board shall be meeting remotely until further notice. The audio conferencing application Zoom will be used for this purpose. An online link and telephone access number will be provided on all meeting agendas and also on the city's website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the city's website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. This application will permit the public to access and participate in future board meetings and hearings. Instructions for joining meetings in this manner will be provided on the city and city clerk's websites. We extend our thanks for your understanding and participation in this manner, which is intended to keep members of the board and the public safe. So we are, for this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch, listen, and provide comment during the meeting may do so in the following manner on our YouTube page. It has the link, has the number to dial in, and there are people, members of the public, also in attendance of this meeting. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. But other than that, we can do roll call of the members.
Excuse me, Shane, I think there's something wrong because your voice is echoing, now mine's echoing.
Yeah, getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, I can, let me fix that. All right. All right, let me do a roll call of the members. All right. Chairman Cafasa.
Here.
Leo Pisano.
Yeah.
Michael O'Connor.
Yeah.
Cheyenne Rangel. All right, Cheyenne's not here. Cheyenne sent me an email. She has classes on Tuesdays, so she may be able to watch, but I don't believe she'll be attending and voting. George D'Angelo.
Here.
Philip Mastrocola.
Yeah.
James Tarr.
Here.
And representing the city, myself, Shane O'Brien, Land Use Planner, Jeannie Vidakevich of the Office of Planning. We have Tony Souza here. We also have Greg St. Louis and Matt Latanzi on here as well. So we got a big group today. But other than that, Mr. Chairman, I think we are good to go.
Okay, first order of business, please.
Sure thing. We all have old business we're starting off with. It's a zoning amendment for Section 38 of Appendix A of the Housing Production Conversion Ordinance. So as you can tell, we're continuing the conversation from the last meeting. We did have the chairperson on the Traffic Commission, but as they say, duty calls. So unfortunately, he is off. So I will ask Mr. Chairman and the board if they have any additional questions in regards to the matter for the zoning ordinance in regards to comments.
Any questions, comments?
Thought this was supposed to be put off to a committee. The mayor was going to have a committee on this that we talked about at the last time.
It was the last meeting we decided to have the discussion for, because it's a council ordinance referred to us. It's something that's eventually going to still go to council. So even if we do not provide a recommendation today, the council will still be hearing the ordinance. So today for us is just providing a recommendation to council from this. I did ask for Mr. Gaff to have a conversation and provide us some feedback in terms of the overall structure of the Traffic Commission and other traffic issues that are occurring in the city. But unfortunately, he got brought up with other issues that are happening within the city. but just wanted to follow up with the board if they had any additional comments in terms of the proposed ordinance.
Oh, why would this go to the council as it's written when the last time we kind of, I guess, rejected it and it's the way it is written?
Well, any zoning ordinance would be referred from planning board to council. There's not something that dies with the planning board. It's something that we provide a non-binding recommendation as part of any ordinance referred to us.
Yeah, I
So
understand that, but
even if we don't provide comment, this is the last meeting that the board can provide comment for with a recommendation to council comparative to if we don't provide or we continue this to another ordinance, council can accept that we provided no comment within the 60-day time period.
well, okay. Well, if we're going to speak up on it, I will carry on from where I left off. I'm opposed to it, period. There's
Sure.
no further discussion on my part. And we talked it to death at the last meeting, and I kind of thought we were going to have a little bit more than just Joe Gaff coming in talking on it, though Joe's probably the most experienced one on the problem with the whole thing. But whatever. It's going to go to council, let it go to council. We're going to make a recommendation, then at a certain point, I'll make a motion on it. So I'll pass.
Any other questions or comments of the board? Is there any recommendations?
Yeah, if there's any recommendations to perhaps the language from council, to council, I know it was suggested as well. I know James Soper is teaching the class today. The possible recommendation that to allow this ordinance to move forward for if someone was to opt into said program for the 5 years is that the entirety of the units for the conversion would lose access to parking passes. So the ability to enable that these conversions occur by right, whereas the people in the units or whomever would be living at the house being converted, no person who would be living there would have to be given rights for parking passes. So they would be essentially put on the blacklist, as stated from ZBA saying that you are not allowed parking for certain units for certain projects.
They think that's going to happen throughout the city whenever this conversion, someone converts over to this, that those people that are going to live there aren't going to have a car. That's their basic concept. I want to know, someone actually come out and say to me that they're the absolute opinion that these people that will occupy these dwellings will not have cars. And that's what they base their decision on.
Well, yeah, it would have to be up to kind of the person wanting to opt into this program. Essentially, understanding that they would be able to convert their 2 or 3 unit into a 4 or 5 unit, but at the loss of parking. So, would you be able to market your building better, or is it more manageable to just keep it as a 2-3, or is it worth getting the extra units to kind of preserve these kind of older historic homes for more of a 4 or 5 unit? So that's the kind of the comments that me and Mr. Sober had for the ordinance, or as a recommendation to council, if it was something in the affirmative for this project. So it would reduce the amount of parking if someone were to convert one of these buildings by right in accordance to this housing conversion ordinance.
Yeah, I got a question real quick. I know we're talking about the parking with this. I don't know if this is the right time to mention this, but is there I know that the city puts in ordinances saying that people can't get a residential sticker because of, what we implement, but is there any way down the line that something to challenge this in a state court to overrule that? And then all of a sudden you got to give people the right to park, like a sticker, you know what I mean? I'm just wondering, can the state overrule that?
I would say that parking would be considered maybe a privilege in the city. So it's kind of like a license. But you know, I
Just wondering,
don't,
you know.
you know, we've had countless lawyers in the city, as part of ZBA cases, take action with these kind of, and no one's really challenged it from my understanding in terms of any court cases.
I'm just saying, because, you know, we say these things and then down the line, if someone does challenge this, what's gonna happen? You know,
Well,
with
it would
all
al-
these restrictions that we have with place, and all of a sudden now it's overruled and now you're swamped with stickers, aren't you?
Well, it would be a question of, would that cause
Legality?
a lot of these cases to be invalidated? I don't, I think we review thoroughly a lot of these. I think we wouldn't have presented this concept if we didn't feel that there was some
Couldn't.
sort of, you know,
All right.
ability for the city to kind of take this on. I don't, you know, being that I think parking is a privilege in terms of this case, and, you know, we can control the amount of parking people have through ordinance. We're able to kind of allow and disallow people from parking. The fact that we have parking stickers in the city, it just kind of exemplifies that.
Now,
Shane,
as you,
sorry.
go
Phil.
go ahead.
Sure.
Oh, okay, thank you. Shane, I just had a question for you. So hypothetically, as the language exists now, if this were to be implemented and someone were to move into one of these newer units that were created in an existing footprint,
Mhm.
and they were kind of on a blacklist, as you said, they wouldn't be able to get a parking sticker, correct?
Correct.
And if that were the case and they attempted to park on the street, eventually they'd start getting ticketed quite a bit and they'd probably end up getting towed, right?
That would be, I would assume so. It's kind of fuzzy with COVID because of the lack of towing, but being that we're ramping up street sweeping, once again, I would assume that these would be, you know, in now times we would be towing and doing these sort of things.
Like under normal circumstances.
Yeah,
you know,
under
pandemic non-existing.
2020 has not been a normal year, but yes, under normal circumstances, these would be targets for any towing truck or towing
Okay.
company.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I just one other thing on this ordinance. This basically is going to the council basically to get approved, right? Is this what basically is happening?
Yeah, like I said, it's a non-binding recommendation to planning board. You know, we kind of receive this ordinance as presented, and we can kind of, we're kind of the ones that, you know, the council doesn't really have an ordinance committee per se. You know, we're kind of that ordinance committee, so we're kind of looking at it, but we're also allotted with the amount of time to review something referred to us from council from an ordinance. So we're kind of the ones providing comment to kind of lead council in a direction where they can take this ordinance on, they can make it better, or they can kind of neglect it and say, maybe we need something different. So there's different options. You know, I like to go down the route of trying to take something that we receive and make it better, rather than kind of steer council in a way where we're just kind of throwing pasta at the wall, hoping something sticks. I'd rather kind of craft something that's more, you know, fortunate for council to deal with. And I can't speak for Mr. Soper as well as this, and he kind of deals with a lot of the issues that the city has for a lot of these kind of, I wouldn't say illegal apartments, but a lot of these conversions that these builders are kind of trying to figure out what the best methodology of kind of creating these conversions. And I think part of this, the goal is to kind of take a lot of the stress off planning board and zoning board and kind of allow for some by right conversions, but also thinking about the reduction of parking as well and preserving these kind of structures in the city. Because a lot of these conversions aren't going to be able to function. We saw a couple conversions at the last meeting with waivers. You know, they're still going to have to provide architectural plans that allow for safe egress and sprinkler systems, which, you know,
Right.
a lot of these developers or landowners aren't going to be able to kind of afford.
So, okay. So what, but my understanding is that we're trying to get 2 families, 3 families and convert them into multiple units. So like a 2-family house, I can turn it into a 4 or 5 unit a complex. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah,
Is that
as
what
long
this
as
basically is saying?
yeah, it wouldn't have to go through the way. It wouldn't have to go through the ZBA process where, you know, it's the requirement of, it's essentially to get rid of that variance process that's not guaranteed and kind of dismiss that requirement of parking as part of this.
I'm just trying to get to the point. To me, it's just like they're just trying to eliminate the 2-family houses in neighborhoods. and turn them into multiple, you turn every house into a multiple unit.
No,
Doesn't
like I
make
said,
sense to me.
No, like I said, it wouldn't work for every property. It would, you
All right.
have to be very creative with these, forms of egress because,
Yeah.
Each property needs each unit would need two forms of egress, safe forms of egress. It would have
Yes,
to meet
yeah.
fire code. So these twos that would be try to be converted to fours, you're talking major sprinkler work, you're talking major egress work. And, there's twos in the city that are being treated as fours right now that the building department kind of walks into and says, oh goodness, what are we going to do about this? And it's kind of this, olive branch that they're kind of extending to these developers by this, not developers, these homeowners, in terms of getting them to the point where they can convert these properties in a proper
So it's
manner.
almost like, why bother going through these conversions, It seems like more work than necessary, and it's more of an aggravation than it is a benefit.
Right. And,
But
it
I
helps.
understand they're saying they want to get rid of illegal apartments, but isn't
But
that
at
what
least-
we're doing with ISD? It's like going around and getting rid of these illegal apartments. Is that what it's all about? All right, it's okay,
Sure.
but I'm still old fashioned. Two-family house, you got your family living in there and everything.
I
You get into six families, it's like, all right, how many more people are we gonna fit in this neighborhood here?
No, I completely.
But no, all right, we're off topic now. We can go.
No, Phil, you're absolutely right. I think the argument I would use is I'm opposed to this more, not so much from a parking standpoint, but if anybody that lives in this city feels that the city is too overcrowded now, then you should vote against this, because this is only going to increase the population of the city. And that's maybe my stand on that is we got enough people in the city now. The only way to control the population is through zoning. And this right now works the way it was. Change it, and you're gonna increase the number of people living in the city. If you feel that's okay, vote for it. If you feel that's not a good idea, turn it down.
Sure. And
Shane, I was just going to say, to my understanding, the intention of this language is to sort of give people the ability, if they have a building like this, that's, it's supposed to be a 2-unit, maybe it's become a 3-unit de facto. It offers them the opportunity to get on the books and become a legal apartment.
Yeah, it starts the process, but it doesn't guarantee. It doesn't
Guarantees nothing, clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, it just means, and it's a question of, maybe it's something that the board considers, limiting. We talked about limiting within the district, or if it's just dwelling units, because there are existing dwelling units in the commercial triangle district. So there's a question of what districts this could go into. It's very simplistic language in terms of, what we kind of were given, but it's either, it's really up to the board in terms of what kind of route we want to go down, whether it be,
If this were to solve,
cramming more. I'm
if
sorry.
this were designed to solve the problem of, as Jim points out, people who have an existing situation, and ISD wants to clear it all up, then they should take the ones that have the problem and resolve them and stop it right there, and not have any new properties the right to convert over. I think if you got a problem, solve it. If you got these houses and so many of them have a problem, they went ahead and made it into a 3-family when it should have only been a 2, and it's easier just to say to them, stay that way, everything's fine, but no new ones. This allows every house that wants to do this, it allows them to do it with no parking, and you're circumventing the zoning ordinances of the city. That's all I'm saying to you. If you concede that this is going to start bringing more people into the city, and you're not opposed to it, then vote for it. If you think there's too many people in the city, don't vote for it. I think that's basically more what I'm looking at is you increasing the population of a city that's overcrowded right now, and it does bring in cars. And I don't care what they say as far as, oh no, they're going to be on the blacklist, they're going to this, they're going to that, baloney. They're going to put the cars out there because you just can't have people functioning these days without a car. There are a lot of people that can, but I think you're going to find a lot more that are going to just say the heck with it and park the car on the street. And the neighbors are going to go crazy. Again, this becomes a problem for the poor neighbors. I mean, we got enough aggravations in this city, and that's why I wish that Joe Gaff were here and he could speak on the subject, because he has spoken before on the aggravations they go through at nighttime with the parking. They get phone calls all night. Who's in my driveway? Who's so close to my driveway I can't get in or out? You got too many cars, too many people. If you agree with that, turn this down. If you say, oh no, we got plenty of room for cars, we should have more people, then pass it. It's up to each individual's way they want to think about it. That's all. Thank you.
Well, I think the board needs to either make a recommendation favorably or unfavorably at this point in time. Leo?
I'll make a motion for unfavorable action on zoning amendment changes to the section 38 of Appendix A.
Sure. I just want to clarify something. Cheyenne Ringel is at the meeting now, but she's kind of listening in, so she won't be voting. So I just want to ask either Phil or James if you guys want to do rock, paper, scissors for who wants to be part of this decision.
On 3?
Oh,
so-
you guys actually done? You good? Okay.
I'm fine, either one, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. I'll have to. All right. So Mr. Taro.
All right. So Mr. Pisano has made a motion.
Sure.
Of
we have a second?
unfavorable action on the zoning amendment changes to section 38 of Appendix A, Housing Production Conversion Ordinance.
I'd just like to make one comment before we go and ask for a second or a vote.
Sure thing.
My real concern is these people that do, if they do change their house from a 2 to a 3 or a 4, whatever it may be, and they are not allowed to get parking stickers for those other 2 units, whatever we want to call them.
Right.
Now they put the house up for sale and they sell it as a 3-family, 4-family, and anybody that buys it thinks they have rights. Does this transfer to the new owner that they cannot have parking as well? Is my question.
It would have to. You
Well,
couldn't, because then you're just, people are selling to LLCs at this point.
Well, wherever they're selling to, but they're selling them with the intention that, oh, I just bought a 4-family and I can put 6 cars. You can't, whatever cars they had in the very beginning on the 1 or 2 family, whatever it was, that's what it stays at. So my question is, or my comment is that, when they do go around and sell these units, they're going to put $100,000 in to give another apartment and sell the house for $300,000 more. Okay, that's the whole idea. And I know that's the whole idea.
Sure.
So the question or the comment I'm making is that, yes, does this non-parking issue follow the process? Every buyer knows that, oh, by the way, you only have 2 parking spaces there. Okay, that's
Sure.
my comment. So,
Okay.
And so now the chair, we've got a motion from
Sure.
Mr. Pisano for unfavorable action. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right.
Motion has been made and seconded for unfavorable action. Roll call vote.
All right. Leo Pisano,
Yes.
Michael O'Connor,
No.
George D'Angelo,
Yes.
James Tarr,
No.
Frederick Cafaso.
Yes.
All right. We have a unfavorable recommendation. And do we have any other? Okay, so we have a motion, an unfavorable recommendation to council. And do we have any comments for the board? Just to mention, just so we have general comments and concerns. I know you
It's the
have.
whole- It's
I-
the whole parking issue. That's really what it all stems from.
Okay.
I have another question about, we talk about the parking, but how, people start going through it, how will the city handle, like the sewage system situation, the pipes and everything, with more people, more stuff going into the pipes, do we have adequate, sewage pipes that we're not gonna end up with, package up and all that stuff when you got more people now. All of a sudden you got 7 houses added, 3 or 4 units and everything, and now you have more, you know what I'm saying? It's like, is that been considered? Do we have that? Can you
Yeah,
handle
well,
it?
For all site plans, it's considered as part of capacity issues. Anytime we see a site plan review, we look at,
Mhm.
we're going to see a project today that we have to understand capacity of sewerage. And it's something that I put in all our site plan reviews, that they have some sort of meeting with DPW for stormwater or other information of that matter, just to have it as a catch-all
Okay.
before they even start pulling the permit, because.
Okay.
But with this ordinance, wouldn't that not be required?
Well, it wouldn't state that they wouldn't have to go through site plan review. It would just eliminate the ZBA as part of the process. So we still have to accept site plan review. It wouldn't allow all these to be converted by right from a standpoint, more from a parking standpoint, but not so for a site plan or waiver. They would have to still get anything that's an increase in units. You would have to receive either a waiver of site plan review or a site plan review. So this was more primarily for parking conversions with the decrease in parking.
Okay, yep. I just was thinking about that.
Okay,
All right.
next order of business, please.
Sure thing. Number 2, we have continuation of site plan review for 983 Broadway. Proposal is to build a 5-unit 4-story structure as shown on the plans entitled Site Plan for Board of Appeals 983 Broadway, Everett, Mass. 02149 on a parcel shown being a land referenced by the Assessors Department as A0-01-000147. All right, so if the applicant is here, I saw that David O'Neill is here, James Soper. So feel free to begin. Let me, actually I can share my screen, but feel free to start us off, David.
Great, thank you, Mr. O'Brien. My name is David O'Neill. I represent the property owner and the proposed developer, Rex E LLC. Manager of that organization is Sharif Abuzara, who is on the call tonight, as well as our design team of Peter Sandorsi of Phoenix Architects and Peter Ogren of Hayes Engineering. We're returning to the board tonight from our prior presentation of this project back on September 14th, which was yet another appearance from the original time when this similar project was presented to this board last year. And just to give you some context, this is the property at the corner of Broadway and Estes Street at 983 Broadway, presently occupied by a shuttered and closed Little Caesars pizza restaurant. The history of this property, some 30 plus years ago, I believe it was a residential dwelling. It was demolished and the present cinder block the cinder block structure was constructed on the site and used over the years by a number of commercial ventures, none of which stood the test of time. We presented a proposal to this board back in May or April of last year and received site plan approval for a 9-unit property executed in much similar aesthetic as our present rendering, which again we'll get to in a moment. That plan was essentially similarly or identically situated on the lot with same entry and egress points, and a favorable site plan approval was granted, along with a recommendation requested at that time for the zoning relief that we sought from the Zoning Board of Appeals to allow the construction of this then 9-unit building with a deficit of 9 parking spaces. That Zoning Board of Appeals petition did not go favorably to the applicant. He revised the plans with much of the guidance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, reduced the number of units from 9 to 5, and increased the number of parking spaces to apply a zoning compliant, fully zoning compliant project with fully zoning compliant 10 parking spots off-street. And we have brought that project back today. Picking up from where we left off at the last meeting, there was some community comment, and I know that in your design capacity, this board had a number of suggestions, which I think you will see reflected in the new renderings done by Peter Sandorsey, which are before you tonight, harking back much to the plan that we, or the renderings that we had approved in the 9-unit project. I'm going to let Peter bring you through those changes as he's done it, and can explain to you what he's done. But two things I did want to bring up. As I noted, there was some community concern about the project that was voiced at the last meeting. Myself and the petitioner reached out, scheduled a Zoom meeting, made invitations to the neighborhood, and while we were available for comment, interchange, and some communication, no one took us up on it. So kind of anticipating what their concerns would be, and again, we were open to hear those concerns and perhaps respond to them. The applicant commissioned a traffic assessment study, which we've provided to the board. And you know, the options here are residential or a restaurant. And hearing the neighbors concerned about the trips and the traffic that a 5-unit residential property would generate, we compared that to a similarly situated restaurant of a takeout variety that would be apt to be a possible use of this property. I see Peter Ogren of Hayes Engineering is on the call and can talk about some of the protocols that he used in establishing this study. But perhaps, and I apologize for jumping around a bit, Shane, perhaps we should look first to the design changes that Peter Sandorsey has put together, and allow him to show what with this board's recommendations he has produced. So Peter Sandorsey, please.
Yes. Hi, Dave. We did go back to the building originally approved by the planning board. I believe it was last April, when we took for the major features of that building and brought them back into this building. I think most notably is the brick that surrounds the whole full dimensional brick, the whole first floor of the building, creating a rusticated base for the building. Also coming back in with Juliet balconies on the front so that we get the break in the facade. I think also the ability to come back in with the bay windows, transoms above, and all the main living areas. Proportionally, by dropping the building, took 3 feet out of it in height. I think it's more proportional now than it was. Breaking the materials on the upper floors with banding on the 2nd and 3rd floor. Also changing the siding materials from AZAC against the main body of the building to board and batten on the upper floor. On the very top, cutting the parapet in the center and doing railings that will be the same design as the ones on the Juliet balconies to break the roof line. The head house has been reduced in size and also in and of itself dropped another 2 feet. What did I forget? I think another major change was that because Broadway is our main address, we added a front door to the building. put a hallway down through. So now that right there, yes, the building can be accessed from Broadway as a pedestrian and or from the parking lot by the residents. And you can see it there on the left of the building. So we shrunk the ADA unit to accommodate that. But I think it was kind of essential to kind of give the building a presence on Broadway. That's what we did to bring it back.
And thank you, Peter. Yeah, the door on Broadway is obviously encouraging the use of the very proximate, a dozen or so steps away bus stop that is right outside this building. This is a very transit-friendly building. Not only is it on a major bus route, but it is providing 10 off-street parking spaces for its occupants. The property is, I think you can see, has benefited from a return to some of the details that this board found so appealing in their prior approved plan, including the urban look of the lower level brick, to give us, to be in keeping with our with Everett's design guidelines. So on the design, I guess we can see what it is. The interior space has been only minorly changed. It is 5 units, and with the with a it is, the unit count is, and Peter help me because you're scrolling through. We've got 3 ones.
I believe it's on the front sheet there, Dave. If you go back to the, yes, on the bottom.
Yep. So it's 1 ADA bedroom, 2 1-bedrooms, 2
3 bedrooms,
2 3s for a total of 5 units.
5 units.
So that is that's the aesthetic improvements and kind of design improvements that we've been able to offer to this board. And Peter Ogren, perhaps you can tell us what your methodology was in arriving at your traffic assessment of the use of the property as a residential site, as opposed to a possible use as a restaurant or commercial use.
Yeah, I can do that. The Institute of Traffic Engineers, which is the kind of gospel as far as traffic generation and traffic movements and stuff is concerned, provides land use codes for various land uses, and they're based on, in this particular instance, in multifamily housing, the number of units, and in fast food restaurants, the size of the restaurant itself. So there are 2 land use codes that we used. One was 933, and we provided the backup information in the report on that, which is a fast food restaurant without the drive-through window that we have. And in this case, it's one that's 1,768 square feet in size, fairly small fast food restaurant. The other land use code we used was 221, which is multifamily housing, mid-rise, and 5 units. And based on that, the traffic generation was computed now, and we showed the traffic movements that were allowed on SD Street. That indicated that there would be a reduction if the use is converted from a fast food restaurant to a multifamily housing, and it's fairly dramatic. In the AM peak hour, it reduces the traffic by 42 vehicle trips per day, given that the multifamily housing would only have 2 units, 2 vehicles that would be leaving the site, and the AM peak for the fast food restaurant would be 44. So that's a net change of 42, a reduction. And in the PM peak, it indicated that there would be 50 vehicle trips in the fast food restaurant, and only 2 in the multifamily housing. Again, a reduction in 48 units. So there's a significant reduction and also a large reduction in the average daily traffic from 613 vehicles to 27 total vehicle trips for the apartment units. So from a traffic standpoint, it's definitely a significant reduction based on the Institute of Traffic Engineers standard traffic generation numbers. And that's our conclusion as far as the traffic report is concerned.
So thank you, Peter. We look at the peak hours, and I think the difference becomes even more stark when you realize that a residence has a pretty standard in-out. People go to work and they come home from work. An operating restaurant is busy when they're open, and the peak hours are really not quite. There isn't a drop off from the peak hours to the low hours. So whereas a homeowner, again, leaves the home and comes back later without anything really going on in between, a restaurant is constantly busy, and that's what accounts for, and what appears to account for the incredibly drastic increase in vehicle trips associated with a restaurant use. And that is, those are numbers that we're confident, even if they're off by a scale. The difference between a residential use and a commercial restaurant use is significant. And
that phenomena that you're talking about is reflected in the numbers, which we say ADT. And if you look at the asterisk, that's average daily traffic. Only about 10% of the traffic is coming in a little less than 10% in the morning and evening. The rest of the traffic is throughout the day. And you're correct, depending on the type of fast food restaurant it is, it's either serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or maybe it's a sub shop that's open later at night or something like that. But there's traffic all during the day, and that's why those numbers are so great. The fast food restaurant average daily traffic was 613 based on the Institute of Traffic Engineers numbers as opposed to 27 for the multifamily housing.
Thank you, Peter. So I don't know if we can take those into account when we view the project as a whole. This is a developer who has shown a commitment to the wishes of the city, reducing a 9-unit to a 5-unit, has made a significant investment. We kind of are a little cavalier when I am maybe when I see a request or make a request to an architect to, hey, change the siding from a hardy board type thing to a dimensional brick, not realizing the expense that goes into that, the change in the layout of the building that goes into that, from the dimensional loss to the size of the brick, and that over and above the mere work of redesigning it. So I really have to appreciate, and maybe I'm patting my own developer on his back, that the work has gone into this project to make it an attractive, more scale appropriate structure to its neighbors. I think last time we had some information about the relative heights. And again, we're well under the 65-foot zoning allowance in the area, and I think we're down under 45 feet here. 42, Peter, I think is the figure.
42 feet. That's correct.
42 feet,
yeah,
which is going to be a shorter structure than the building across SD Street. So this building fits. It's been scaled down. The work has been done to respond to the request of this board, and we would ask that this board look favorably upon our request for site plan approval. One thing that came up before, we do have to go through our stormwater review with the city, but we are planning that this will be entirely self-sufficient. There's an infiltration system. There are drains that will keep our water on our property. I didn't get into it again this time, but we have snow storage area, and as we've talked about before, fully compliant off-street and handicap parking. So again, a project that has taken to heart the requests of the board, the needs of the neighborhood, and is before you again for really its second approval in a much scaled down presentation. And we would ask that this board, obviously we're open to any questions that the board has. We're hoping that the board looks favorably upon this scaled down version of what they approved last year.
So O'Neill, Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes. I'd like to ask a question. It's concerning the 3-bedroom unit, okay? Which means husband and a wife, possibly a son and a daughter, which could entail 3 cars for that unit, possibly 4 cars for that unit. What happens to those other 2 that may need a parking spot? That's my question.
Okay, well, we're presented with a zoning regime that says 2 parking spots per dwelling unit. You've heard arguments in the last years that is an outmoded and outdated way to look at things, and this board and the zoning board of appeals have approved buildings with 0 parking. So to answer the question, could a 3-bedroom produce somebody that has a 3rd car? Just as likely as that 2-unit apartment having being a 1-car family. So using the average of these things, that's how our zoning rules come into play, and the rules that we're given, and it's I think a fair question, but equally fair is the trend and the track record within the city of encouraging 0 cars. We're doing what the city asks. We're providing 10 off-street parking spaces.
So not to beat this thing like a dead horse, but I'm saying unit 6 or 5 rather. Unit 5 happens to have 3 bedrooms. Is that correct? We'll say unit 5 for the sake of an argument. And they have 2 children, a husband and a wife. Obviously, maybe all of them have cars. I'm not saying they do or they don't, but my question is, unit 5, when they go to the parking clerk, they say, I just moved into unit 5 and I'd like to get a parking pass. Bam, they give them a parking pass. Now 3 others follow them. Bam, they get the parking passes too. That's all I'm asking, Mr. O'Neill. You're saying unit 1 through 5 gets 2 per unit. Is that not correct?
That's the
norm.
That is the norm. There are 5 units. There are 10 parking spots.
2 per unit. That's what you based this on, correct?
Correct. And again, you see that we do have a 1-bedroom, so you do the math there.
It may not be 1 car, but what
0.
I'm saying is we're complying with the 2 spaces per unit. Bam, that's it. That's all I'm saying. Not 3. spaces for unit 5, not 5 spaces for unit 5.
Yeah,
Okay,
incorrect.
that's all I'm
And not
saying.
one, and not one parking space for unit 1, even though there's only 1 bedroom. So,
Even still, he's allowed 2. Could be a husband and a wife.
okay, yeah, I get, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but if we're just counting beds, and assuming that there'll be a car per bed, yeah, we're right in line with what the city's
Well,
wanting.
whatever. Okay, that's only my comment. Okay, I just want unit 5 to realize that they don't get 3 spaces or 4 spaces unless somebody unit 1 says, I don't need a car. You can have my space.
Could
You know,
happen.
it happens. That's right. It happens. That's all. That's only my only comment about this project. Thank you. Any other comments?
Are you saying these parking spots that are in the complex, are those people still entitled to a residential sticker? Or can they only park on the property?
Well, yeah, there's no limitation unless a city board, such as yours, decides to condition a grant, a approval upon a waiver or not a waiver, but a restriction against applying for on-street parking. And,
So right now, they can still apply so they can still get a residential sticker, even though they have a parking spot on their property themselves, right?
Citywide,
that's
citywide, that's the case.
Okay, so in other words, they can get a residential sticker, park out in the street, and have their spots inside their property used for someone else, right?
Well, I suppose that's possible, but
Okay,
if I've
so
got,
that's what I'm.
if I've got a car in a spot off the street,
Right.
That's why I rented an
No,
apartment.
I know. It's like me having a driveway. I have a car and I have a driveway and I have a residential sticker. I can park on the street, but I can park in my driveway. So I'm just wondering if they have the same option. That means technically they can park out in the street and you still have parking spots inside there. So either
Bill,
way,
Bill, we can put whatever restrictions we
Okay.
want on this property.
Yeah,
Okay?
just want to kind of want to make a comment on that as well.
Sure.
Unless the board stipulates it for a lot of these site plan reviews,
Right.
we kind of have to stipulate it per each decision if we want to
Okay.
restrict parking or non-restrict parking. We've had projects in the past like 110 Tremont Street that we may have not necessarily restricted parking on that one. So there's other projects, unless we directly,
Right.
specify in that no one can get a sticker unless there was a ZBA, stating it. In this case, the zoning, there's not a need for zoning because it meets the requirements of zoning. But we're the site plan review team and site plan review authority and permitting authority. So we have the rights to stipulate that in case ZBA or another board does not. So we're that stipulating committee. So sometimes we do stipulate it, sometimes we don't.
Fine. At this point, I will open up resume the public hearing for any comments outside the board.
I have a comment.
Please state your.
Hello?
Hello. Hey, Lisa.
Hi, my name is Lisa Collins. I live at 15 Esty Street. And I've been to all these Zoom meetings, and I just want to say what I've said before about the parking situation. And now what I'm hearing is really, it's getting worse with every meeting. They're saying that, 4 people are going to be in an apartment and they're only going to get 2 spots, and then maybe they can have a sticker. Esty Street is very congested as it is. Now they put the traffic light at Lynn and Fuller, the stoplight, and that has made the traffic on Esty Street worse because people are dodging that light. They do not want to stop at that light. So I don't know where those figures came, where they're saying that there's no traffic on Estes or whatever they were saying. The traffic on Estes is worse than ever because the people are now dodging another light. And as far as people getting a sticker to park, on Estes and not using their spot, or they only have 2 spots and there could be 4 people in the house, there's no on Estes for any other traffic. And I've said it before, and I'm not gonna change my mind. This is getting worse and worse with every meeting about this traffic issue. I've spoke to Officer Gaff many times about traffic shooting down one way on Estes. I almost got killed the other day coming. I know other people in the street have had issues as well. And the more parking on the street, the more parking anywhere near Estes is going to be just horrific. And I'm still against this whole business. That's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify, we're certainly not saying that there is no traffic on Estes Street. Our traffic assessment simply states that a 5-unit residential building produces 27 trips a day, whereas a possible restaurant use produces over 600 trips per day. So we are really, I really want to be clear, we're the best hope Estes Street has, and its residents have, of a more peaceful, less traffic intense street. And again, we're not adding off-street parking, and it's kind of not on us what happens on the other side of the city. But what we can do, and what this project does do, is prevents the use of the property as a restaurant. And it's had that use in the past, and the right restaurant in this place will succeed, will draw people, will create traffic that will produce a result like the residents of Estes Street never want to see. And that's just the economics of it. It will happen. Except that if we take this out of the commercial realm, turn it into a 5-unit condominium where we've got homeowners and respectful owner occupants, that's a peaceful neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to make one more comment if I may.
Yes.
Okay, they're basing this on, 4 people, it's going to absolutely be 2 cars. That's what they're basing it on. And they're saying they can't guarantee what's going to happen after that. Well, we know what's going to happen. I see what happens out in front of my house now. People don't use their driveways. I don't use my driveway because, I don't want anyone, blocking my driveway at night. My husband can't get out in the morning. And that's what's going to happen. If there's more than 2 people in an apartment, that there's 4 people in one apartment, and like I said before, they're going to have cars. And the discussion before our discussion was about parking. The city is overcrowded with parking right now, and it's just more parking on Estes Street is not what we need. Estes Street is they don't seem to understand what goes on here day in and day out. And, if you speak to Officer Gaff, I wish he was here because he's been at my door hello, Officer Gaff. And, I've spoken to him numerous times about the people coming down the one way. He's had officers out here watching the street at night. More traffic and more parking on Estes is not what we need. We just don't. And I don't know why you're even talking about a restaurant. A restaurant was never in the picture. I don't know why you're even discussing traffic in a restaurant. This is about an apartment building that's going to create more havoc than Estes Street can handle. We have more havoc than we can handle now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'd like to say something also. Ida Ferragamo.
Yes, Ida.
I have a screen on that looks like the planning of the building, and I can't see all the participants. I don't know why. Does anybody else just see the plans and not the people?
Well, yeah, the plan's just part of the presentation, so you can see what the project is.
So, okay. And I do agree with Lisa. The street is a crazy street. We are concerned with the parking. I did have a question though, if it's condominiums, I know the gentleman that is, owns the building now, is he gonna sell these condominiums off to individuals? So he'll sell them and then he won't have any say in the building after the condominiums are sold? Is that how it works?
I can answer it. You wouldn't be able to sell, you could sell, I guess, the project, but you couldn't condo the property until everything's built out. I guess you could propose based on the buying of it, but in terms of someone purchasing a condo without seeing anything of it, it would be kind of a buyer's remorse. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to get occupancy permits for it before they can be essentially livable units.
My question is, I don't know if he'll answer it, but is that in the foreseeable future that's going to be built, and then in time they can petition to sell it off and then he'll be out of the picture? Because in all honesty, I do feel he's a good guy, but he doesn't live here. But I would hate to see the building some way along the line go condo, and then people will just have no disregard for what's going on.
So I can answer that as the developer. So the whole idea of a condo is that everybody buys their own home and they they enjoy it the same way you enjoy your home and all the other neighbors enjoy their home. They will, in essence, be just like you, with the same concerns you have, with the same conveniences and enjoyment of the property that you have as well. So that, yes, the whole idea of a condo development is that everybody buys their unit so they can raise their family there and they can live in it the best way they can, just like everyone else has on the street.
Yes, and I do agree with that, because everybody should enjoy their home. But the way, in my opinion, the city is going, I would hope that they would do that.
And that's why we're going from the rental building, which we had the 9 units prior, to now being condos, where the board, essentially, once it takes over the association, once it takes over each unit, will have the same thoughts and concerns as a board, who will take care of the entire property collectively.
All right, so there would be a board to govern who's ever living there, to make sure it's clean and they're obeying the laws and they're doing all that.
That's how, and I've, in my past history and other projects, I've authored condo docs, and they do stress, the cleanliness and, what has to be done to maintain a valuable, efficient, and working property in the area.
Right. And I did have one other question. As far as, trash day is bad enough on the street with the traffic, your property would be putting the barrels also on Esty Street for collection, correct? And not on Broadway.
Just like everyone else, I believe so.
Yeah, but we live on Esty Street. Your property is Broadway. So that's why I don't understand.
We have is 100 feet on Estes.
You have 100 feet on Estes?
Yeah.
From the corner?
Yeah.
Okay, so you would take care of the trash properly then?
The trash has to be taken care of properly by city code.
I don't know how 100 feet is, but so it'll definitely, they'll be putting out their trash there too. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
So we plan on fully complying with all city regulations and bylaws that we have to, just like everyone else does. The plan is to be no different than anyone else.
I'd like to ask another question. I'm sorry, this is my third question, but I do have another question. In the last meeting, in the first meeting, this was discussed as apartments. In the last meeting, all of a sudden it turned to condos. Condo was mentioned in the meeting and no one even questioned. I thought it was apartments. Now this evening, you're talking units. Until the last person spoke up about condo, a condo was never ever discussed. Why wasn't a condo discussed in this meeting right now?
I don't think we hid this from anyone. I mean,
no, what I'm saying is last meeting it was condos. Today you're just saying units. And now someone brings up condo. Oh yeah, it's going to be condos. There was never a condo mentioned.
It was, the terminology may have been different, but it is the same. They were always, for this 5-unit condo project that we've had, I believe this is the second planning board meeting, the intention has not changed.
Okay, but condos was never discussed in this meeting at all until just now.
I believe it was, but anyway.
I believe it wasn't.
Okay.
Now, another thing.
I'm sorry, from the perception of the board, it's 5 units, whether the developer chooses to rent them out or sell them as condo, as he is stating currently in the public forum. As part of this, it's really up to them. It's also up to if someone wants to purchase the condo and then rent them from being an LLC or something. It's, the concept is that there's going to be unit ownership as presented by the developer.
Now, if it was actually apartments and they were rented out, nothing would change in terms of the requirements of keeping the property clean and maintained.
Well, as far as clean and maintained, I really can't speak on that because I know how the residents in Everett are. And unfortunately, people do not respect people's property. They don't respect cleanliness. I've lived here since 2006. I've seen it, I'm living it, and I don't like it.
At least I couldn't agree more. I've had trash thrown on my property. I've gone out there myself with trash bags and cleaned up a lot of it on my own. Mm-hmm. And so I understand that. I've had people cutting through my property from Broadway through the back entrance to cross the street so they don't have to go down Estes.
Okay, so another thing I'd like to ask is getting back to the trash issue. Everyone's trash goes in front of their house where their front door is, okay? I could not take my trash and put it in another area because I don't want it in front of my house by my door. The trash goes in the curb, by your property's front door. I don't understand why your trash isn't going to go by your front door that you just created on Broadway. Trash goes in the front of the house, not on the side.
And we will comply with whatever the city regulations require and where to put the trash. That's not an issue. I don't really mind either way.
No, it is an issue because we don't need more trash on the street. On a windy day, it goes everywhere.
We will comply with the city.
Can we just direct questions to the board as well? And just to kind of comment on the matter, the board can stipulate that the trash is picked up on Broadway and make it part of the decision as for the concerns of the people on SC Street.
Well, the board doesn't really know where it should be picked up, whether it can be picked up on Estes or it can be picked up on Broadway. We shouldn't stipulate it. That's up to the ISD, or sanitary, DPW.
And we will comply with what they tell us to do.
That's correct.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add a couple of things. As far as condos are concerned, condos are much better than apartments. They're going to be kept cleaner because people have an investment in it. You're going to buy a condo for $450,000. You're going to make sure that the streets are cleaned up, that the parking's done well, and that the condo association is on top of everything. So I think it being condos is a much better feel for this board than if they were apartments. And we have always stressed that on this board that we prefer condos because there's much greater care given to that by the tenants. As far as this board voting for or approving buildings that were put up with zero parking, Mr. O'Neill, that's kind of really not true. We don't control the parking spots. Those buildings that were given approval for a site plan review were already past the ZBA who gave them a variance on that. We don't have anything to say about that parking. That's not under our jurisdiction. As far as Lisa Collins bringing up Fuller and Lynn, the intersection, I personally spoke with Joe Gaff on the subject, and he was going to look into it as far as why that intersection became active from a light that used to just be blinking to a fully functional intersection. And I told him of your concerns, Lisa. I said, you're getting a lot more traffic now down in Fuller, on Estes, because they're jumping the light and coming out that way. So he's well aware of it, and Joe will look into it. He's a good man. So I just want I want Lisa and Ida to understand that this board really doesn't have any control over parking. If they've met all the ordinances, that's it. We just do a site plan. We see how the building looks. I think we took a building that didn't look very good and turned it into what looks like a decent enough looking building now. I hope that you people approve of that. That's our job, to make it look decent within the neighborhood from what it started out as. I think you have a much nicer looking building. I think the board has done its job. So, and I agree with Lisa and Ida. These things are becoming a nuisance as far as putting them into neighborhoods, and it's jamming the city up. And I've spoken on that many times, but also in fairness to the applicant, if they meet all the zoning violations, this board has no other choice but to approve it. Thank you.
Having any other comments? Then the
Just some comments from the department. We did provide a staff report back when this initially came before the board, but primarily our comments are in terms of maybe for site plan stuff. On the plan, it shows a concrete retaining wall. Are we to assume that that's going to be removed as part of this proposal?
Where's the concrete retaining wall you're referring to?
I believe it's maybe some leftover from the existing conditions. It's on the screen right now.
It's not on my screen. I don't know.
It's on
So Peter, it's near the corner of the back wall that allows for the entrance to the back way into the current building.
So right, let me run down. Right here. I think it's from the existing conditions, but it's just noted on the proposed plans.
Only a couple feet.
I don't see there's any reason to remove that. I mean, that holds the grade where it is.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not a very, I've been by that building many times. I think you think of it more as a curb than a retaining wall.
Right. Okay. I'm just trying to think of something that's more comparable to the sidewalk there. So, because I know you show the 24 feet there, but you're in and out. I'm making sure, is that not 12 feet in between the in and out? Or is that, because I'm looking at the numbers right now, and if you're looking at the travel, what is the travel width for getting into the property and out of the property? Because if with that concrete retaining wall, it looks like it splits this 24 foot in half.
Oh, that would be removed.
Okay, so that concrete.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the reference to that definitely gets removed.
All right, just making sure, because it just based on this. Yeah, if you can just, if any part of any approved site plans, to remove that information from it. And additionally, you have proposed grass, the open space that are 72 feet, 72 square feet. Is there going to be any concrete berm or anything blocking that, or is there going to be any? It's just going to be proposed grass over there, correct?
That's correct. We did not show a berm there.
All right, and there's a twin maple nearby. Okay.
There's a large maple tree there.
All right.
I'd
So
like
this
to mention that maple tree about a month ago, due to the heavy winds, a very big portion of it, almost all of it that's on this property, is now gone, has been knocked down. Unfortunately, it fell on the neighbor behind mine's house, but it has been, all portions of it from the property have been removed because it fell down.
Okay. All right. I think the comment that we had from the initial meeting as well, from the initial curb cut that was put over here, if the applicant could fill whatever vertical granite curbing that's presented in front of it, working with the city, of course, just to fill that previous driveway, because we don't want people traveling in and going into the grass area. So we just want to continue that.
It will be
granite curbing
with the rest of it.
Yeah, so just matching kind.
Yep.
And other than that, the applicant's going to have to provide some sort of landscaping plan, some sort of maintenance plan for the landscaping as well, especially in a drought year, some sort of condo association helping out with that. But that's stuff that we can kind of iron out and put part of the decision. But in terms of the site plan requirements, it's the adequacy. We're always looking at the adequacy of the parking facility, number of spaces, which this means the zoning, adequacy of loading, traffic circulation, access points, external lighting. I believe at the last meeting we stated that there's going to be lighting on top of at the corner of the building or off the rear side of the building. Just make sure that lighting is facing downward so it's not interfering with other neighbors. So it's on the parking lot, not causing a nuisance.
Yeah, most towns I've worked in, they require that, so.
Okay, just making sure. Vegetative screening, disposal of sewage, refuse, and other waste. And, of course, you're going to have to go through the stormwater and work with DPW for utility work. But overall, just making sure that, the questions were in regards to the design standards, being that this project is, on Broadway, so it has to have some sort of semblance of brick in accordance to the design standards. Other than that, we kind of provided our comments to the board, and you've adequately answered a lot of these concerns that the department had for this project. But if there's being this issue of safety on SD Street, looking at working with Traffic Commission, if the developer can maybe provide some sort of signage, whether it be a slow down. No, I wouldn't say like a slow yellow caution sign, or work with some sort of safety measurements in the area. I'm not going to say put, those rapid rectangular flashing beacons for a crosswalk, but some sort of methodology to kind of slow down traffic in that area, but also kind of allow traffic to kind of circulate out of that area.
Okay, we can do something. I mean, something like a stop sign that says, stop before exiting, or look both ways, slow children playing, or something like this.
Sure.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you.
If I just may ask, I'm sorry, I'm back. Will the exit for the parking lot go right onto Estes or into Broadway? I apologize. I'm way
Onto
behind this.
Estes.
Right on.
Okay, thank you.
All right, at this point, Chair would like to thank those people that came in on Zoom tonight to express their opinions and desires. And we take that under consideration as well. So is there a motion that the chair would entertain at this time?
Well, we have to close the public hearing portion first.
Okay. Motion to close the public hearing, please.
Yeah.
Need a motion to close the public hearing, Fred?
Yes, please.
Okay, make a motion to close the public hearing on site plan review for 983 Broadway.
I've got one comment regarding the parking.
Sure.
We know each unit's going to assign 2 spots. We can stipulate no residential parking stickers for this project.
Yes, we can.
That's what I would like to do. I don't know about anyone else on the
Make
board.
that motion after we close the public hearing. So you can put that in your motion. Okay.
Okay.
please? Can we have a second on the closure?
Second.
All right.
Sorry, am I considered the public hearing, part of the public? Because I'd
Pardon
like to comment to that.
No, you're on the development team, so it's a matter of.
Actually, if the applicant's going to participate in the conversation, I recommend keeping the public hearing open.
Okay. I was wondering why there should be no parking permits on the street if everyone else has on the street and I'm fully in compliance with zoning.
Well, is what the board has recommended. There are other projects going on in the city that have no parking at all, and no parking permits are issued for them as well. So it's a pleasure of the board.
I'll make a recommendation for favorable action, the site plan review for 983 Broadway.
Sorry, we didn't have a vote to close the public hearing. We just received a motion and second.
Roll call vote, please.
Sure thing. So I'm assuming James Tarr,
Yes.
George D'Angelo,
Yes.
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Leo Pisano,
Yes.
Chairman Cafaso.
Yes.
All right. So Public hearing is now closed.
Do we have a motion, please?
Motion for favorable action for site plan review, 983 Broadway. And if Mike would like to add his comment to that motion?
Yes, I don't know how the board feels, but like I said, since each unit's already gonna have 2 spots, I believe, there should be no residential parking stickers for more people to be parking out on the street.
And just to comment on that as well, I don't think we've stated that each unit would be getting 2 spaces as part of this. I don't think developer stated that. It's just what zoning requires for every unit in the, I believe it's the business district, requires 2 parking spaces. So if there was a project that were if there was a project for 10 studio apartments on Broadway, it would require 20 parking spaces, which would be the same amount of parking required if it were 10 3-bedrooms. It would require 20 parking spaces. So the applicant can provide whatever amount of spaces they choose to for each unit. So the ADA unit could necessarily have 3 parking spaces if they chose to. It would just be a stipulation of how each condo was essentially deeded or allowed for.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think it's 2 spaces per unit.
Exactly.
That's how it's written. Not 1 space per unit and 3 per other units. It's 2. That's how the code is, 2 spaces per unit.
That's correct, and that's how we control the whole situation by stipulating how many parking spaces a unit gets. And we've gone over this 1,000 times, and the zoning is very clear. Period. You can't change it.
Sure.
Okay, so what is the motion, please?
The motion is still.
Leo, if you can put it in your motion, please.
Excuse me, Fred?
Would you put it in your motion, any stipulations?
I'll make my motion and Mike can add to it.
No, you can't do that.
Well,
You make the motion.
Well, let's.
And either seconds it.
Let's clarify what exactly it is that we want then, Mike.
Would you like to make the motion, Mike?
I make a motion to accept the site plan review for 983 Broadway with the stipulation that there be no residential parking stickers permitted for the building.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded that for site plan review for 983 Broadway be accepted with no residential parking permits issued. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
The motion is to approve.
Correct. All right.
With the stipulation. That's the motion.
All right, we have a second by Leo. So.
Do we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure thing. James Tarr,
Yes.
George D'Angelo.
I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Okay. All right, Phil, would you like to fill in?
Yeah.
All right. All right, Philip Mastercola.
Can you you tell me exactly what we're doing here with this? With Mike wants to, we're going ahead and stating that there's no residential stickers, right?
The motion is to approve the site plan review for 983 Broadway with the stipulation that no off-street residential parking stickers be allowed.
I vote yes.
All right, so that's all right. And Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Leo Pisano,
Yes.
and Chairman Kufaso.
Yes.
All right,
Motion has passed.
motion is passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, we're on to number 3 on the agenda. Let me go back. Where are we? Okay. Oh, well, let me. All right. Well, either way, it's 1690 Revere Beach Parkway. If the team is here. Yep, number 3, site plan review, dimensional special permits and inclusionary zoning special permit for 1690 Revere Beach Parkway, number 3. So the proposal is to build a 800-unit transit-oriented residential development. So this continued from the last meeting. If the proponent is here, feel free to give us an update of what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. I tried to change my orientation a little bit so you guys didn't get sick of me. My name is David O'Neill. I represent the petitioner here for you tonight, continuing our presentation on behalf of Everett Holdings LLC, care of the Grossman's Company, relative to their planned redevelopment of the property at 1690 Revere Beach Parkway. As we all know, at the Stop and Shop parcel on the corner of the Parkway and Everett Ave. With me tonight, as previously, just to give you a little overview of tonight. Obviously, we've had an earlier presentation that prompted some discussion of the project. It's quite a large project, as our planner has indicated from his introduction, 800 units, significant amount of commercial space. The plan for this evening is to hear from our traffic consultant, Vanasse Associates, represented by Sean Kelly, who will give you his assessment of the traffic impact of this planned project. And also, we're planning to present to you our affordable housing scheme by our affordable housing consultant, Lynn Sweet of LDS Consulting. And that will be the primary focus of this evening's presentation. As I started to say, with us is the development team, including our property owner, Jake Grossman of the Grossman Companies, principal of the Everett Holdings LLC, along with his team of Avi Schoss and Paul Dawson, as well as our professionals, many of whom are known to you, Steve Martirano of Bowler Engineers, the architectural landscaping firm of Brown and Sardina, and the mastermind of the project, BH+A Architects. Joel Bargman is on the call tonight, but I think our plan tonight is to introduce you through our traffic consultant, Sean Kelly from Vanasse Associates, what we're looking at in terms of our traffic impact. Before I turn it over to Sean, I just do want to check in with Avi and his team. Avi, do you have any greetings to the board, or shall we proceed?
I'll just say thank you again for hearing us this evening. We're excited to be back. Looking forward to sharing our traffic and affordable plans with you, and then the rest of the team will be available to follow up on comments made at the last meeting and any new questions that come up from the board. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Avi. So do we have Sean? Are you able to?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Dave. Do we have the PowerPoint to bring up, or would you guys like me to share from my screen directly?
I think Shane should have it. Do you have the graphic for the traffic impact study?
I can bring it up directly if it's easier.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if Shane's.
Sean, I'm
sorry, I was on mute. I was eating more chips. Yeah, if you guys want to control, I put on the sharing screen.
Does that work there? Does everyone see it?
Yep.
All right, great. Well, first off, good evening, everyone, and members of the board. Thank you again for having us tonight. On behalf of the project team, again, by way of introduction, Sean Kelly with Vanasse Associates, the traffic engineers for this project. What I'd like to do tonight is take a few minutes to walk you through our traffic assessment, how it was conducted, what our findings were, what our recommendations are. Then I'd be happy to answer any questions that members of the board or audience might have. So the first slide here, I think, is pretty straightforward. Again, this is the site location. I think we're probably all quite familiar with the project site, but it's 1690 Revere Beach Parkway. The site today houses a Stop and Shop grocery store that's operational. It's abutted by Vale Street, Boston Street, and Everett Street, which are all under either City of Everett or City of Chelsea jurisdiction, and then also by Revere Beach Parkway to the north, which is under Mass DOT jurisdiction. Because of the changes in land use and also access, we will be required to get a highway access permit from Mass DOT's District 4 office. We have had some preliminary discussions with DOT relative to the project, traffic, and what they're looking for as it relates to mitigation. The project summary, I'm sure I wasn't at the last meeting, but I'm sure you've got a good summary of the project itself. But again, just to reiterate, today we have about a 71,000 square foot Stop and Shop grocery store that's operational. There are 408 surface parking spaces, and there's access today off of Revere Parkway with an inbound only driveway. Boston Street has a driveway that's full access. Vale Street has 2 driveways that are full access, and then there's also a rear entrance drive off Beach Street that comes through an abutting automotive property that's under city jurisdiction. The project itself, again, and I know you've heard this last meeting, is a transit-oriented residential development, 800 units of housing, 10,000 square feet of ancillary retail and restaurant space. While we're not looking for approval of it before this board, our assessment has also included a potential 5,000 square foot additional retail building within the City of Chelsea on the southern portion of the site. Parking would be increased to 906 spaces, 806 in garages, and then also 100 surface spaces that would be utilized by the commercial use. Vehicular access would continue to be provided at Revere Beach Parkway, as well as Boston Street and Locust Street. So here's again, the site layout, just to again orient us as it relates to what exists today versus what's proposed. Again, we would be maintaining a driveway off of Revere Beach Parkway, a reconstructed driveway. This would essentially serve as an entrance-only driveway into the pedestrian shared courtyard, into some of the surface parking, would provide access also to the, I lost that. Bear with me for a moment. I apologize, I must have lost it somehow. Where's it? Can everyone see it again?
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry about that. Again, this would essentially be a one-way inbound driveway. You would have the ability to turn around and come back to Revere Beach Parkway if you were doing if it was a Lyft or Uber or a pickup drop-off activity, but otherwise this would essentially be a one-way inbound driveway. To the rear of the site, currently under construction, is a new corridor called Locust Street, which would connect from Everett to Vale, one way in the westbound direction, and it would serve to allow vehicles to egress the site and get back to Vale Street towards the signalized intersection with Revere Beach Parkway. 2 curb cuts on Boston Street would also provide access to the garage. And then what we're showing here in orange is a proposed new bicycle path that would run through the site from Vale Street into the plaza itself and provide a connection out to Revere Beach Parkway. In conjunction with that, we have had discussions with Mass DOT and their goal for the corridor, in particular as it relates to pedestrian and bicycle activity, is to have an upgraded multi-use path along Revere Beach Parkway, and that's something we've incorporated into our design. So this is the proposed condition. With respect to the study area and the roadways that we looked at, again, pretty straightforward. We looked at the intersections and corridors that we expect will accommodate the bulk of project-related activity. To the north, again, Revere Beach Parkway, the signalized intersections with Vale and Everett, also the unsignalized with Boston Street, Boston at Vale, and then the Carter Street intersections with Vale and Everett. These locations here, as well as the new Locust Street corridor that will traverse the site in an east-west orientation at the very rear of the project, that will be the main gateways that accommodate the bulk of traffic associated with the project. The site is well served by public transportation. Recently, the Silver Line was extended. The S3 route, it's about a quarter mile from the site. It's within walking distance. The commuter rail also travels along, is shown in this blue line here. Within the next year to move the commuter rail station further up the line where it'll be basically adjacent to the line. So between these and bus service that's also provided, there's a number of transit routes that serve the project. And again, one of the focuses of our TDM plan will be to promote the use of transit and reduce the amount of single occupancy vehicles as much as possible. With regard to the traffic that the site generates, in terms of the proposed project, we relied on data published by the ITE. The ITE is the industry standard. It's required by MassDOT, by MEPA. It basically tells you that for a certain use, you can expect this many trips on a daily basis, on a peak hour basis. We ran those numbers for the proposed uses, both the residential as well as the commercial. We took some adjustments for transit trips and also, path trips related to the retail. Census data says that for residents of the city of Everett, a little over 40% of the trips are a non-SOV use. So that's either transit trips, bicycling trips, walking trips, carpool trips. So it's a healthy percentage that aren't just people driving along in their car to go to work. We took a more conservative approach and only assumed 20% to inflate the number of vehicles to be conservative. And then that next column is the grocery store. And these weren't projections. These are the actual vehicles we counted going in and out of the grocery store during peak hours. So as you can see in the morning, as you can imagine, the grocery store is not quite as busy. We do have an increase of about 87 trips, about a car and a half a minute. In the evening, which is the more critical peak when volumes are higher, we actually have a reduction in traffic. And as such, as you can imagine, the impacts of the project relative to delays at intersections and motor vehicle increases are relatively minor. Because we are eliminating the supermarket, which is a high generator of vehicle trips. With respect to our mitigation plan, again, I know we've touched on some of these, but the first is improve pedestrian accommodations. We're proposing to rebuild all the sidewalk along Boston Street, Vale Street, and Revere Beach Parkway. Today, along our frontage, Vale Street does not have sidewalk. It's one of the missing holes in the line, if you will, and we're going to upgrade that, improve the pedestrian infrastructure there to provide that connectivity from Vale Street all the way to Revere Beach Parkway. New bicycle infrastructure, again, we're proposing a bike path that'll run through the site that'll take you from Vale to Revere Beach without having to go up to the signalized and unsignalized intersections by the Wendy's. It'll be a more safe route, less vehicular traffic, designed to accommodate bike traffic. We're also looking at the potential of having blue bikes, within the property limits, as well as, bike racks for residents and guests of the project. Road safety audit. So one of the things that came out of our study was the intersection of Revere Beach Parkway with Everett Avenue is what they call an HSIP location, a Highway Safety Improvement Program location. And that's because the crash frequency there and the severity of the crashes is deemed to be high enough that Mass DOT considers it an intersection that has safety issues that require further evaluation. We've had discussions with MassDOT and we've agreed that we will conduct a road safety audit, which is really, it's a collaborative study where we bring in people from the city agencies, whether it's the police, fire, planning, DPW, Mass DOT, their Boston office, their safety division, the district office, traffic operations. You do a site visit, you look at the safety issues that are there, the crash characteristics, and come up with short-term, mid-term, and long-term measures to improve safety. So we've already committed to MassDOT that we will be performing that study, and we've actually undertaken the work and are going through the crash data at this time. Revere Beach Parkway at Vale Street, under existing conditions, there are some movements during peak hours that have longer delays than quite frankly we'd like to see. We've committed to looking at that signal and basically optimizing it, looking at the allocation of green time and tweaking the signal so it works as well as it can work. And again, it's important to note that we actually are decreasing traffic there by removing the supermarket use. And then I think really probably the most critical piece is the implementation of a transportation demand management plan that's aimed at reducing SOVs coming to and from the site. We have been in touch with Jay Monty at the city's traffic engineering department, and we've been provided with a draft copy of the city's TDM ordinance. We understand that that's will be before this board as well as the city council and may be approved as early as next month. But essentially the biggest part of that ordinance is it requires developments of a certain size to join the Everett's Transportation Management Association, or TMA. And the TMA, you know, there's a number of things that assist the developers in terms of providing programs to promote the use of non-auto modes of travel, whether that's, you know, guaranteed rides home if you take transit to work, ride matching, car matching services for people that may have that ability to carpool and work together. And there's also, it requires that we do a kind of a cost benefit analysis where, you know, we look at the project as a whole as it relates to traffic. We look at the increases in traffic generation. We look at the impacts to levels of service. And for each of those, I would call, you know, negative aspects of traffic, we get a score. And then there are measures that the TDM ordinance requires that we implement, whether that's, you know, having bike storage on site, having a pickup service, delivery service on site, you know, electric charging vehicles, things of that nature. And essentially you have to balance that score so that for the traffic that you generate, you need to put it together a TDM program with the cumulative impact score of those TDM measures offsets the impact of your project as it relates to traffic increases and also impacts to delays and levels of service. So that in a nutshell is where we are as it relates to traffic. We have some work still to do with the city as it relates to the TMA, and we'll certainly be looking at that TDM ordinance when it's approved and finalized. But we certainly think this is an exciting project, and the proximity of transit and the ability to have this be a transit-oriented project can really help to reduce the impact of the project on the transportation system. That's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions now, or if you'd like to wait until the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Sean. I think while we've got you, it makes sense if, you know, certainly whenever the board has a question, they can raise it, but this seems a good time to take advantage of the information you provided while it's fresh and open it up to the board for a question.
I have one question, please, Mr. O'Neill. The issue about that right of way, has that been resolved?
So I think you're referring to the fact that at the last meeting, an attorney appearing for one of our, or two of our abutters raised the question of an existing easement.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So yes, that I won't say that it's resolved, but the easement we're aware of. The easement speaks for itself. And again, I think we provided to the board a pretty in-depth explanation of the history of that easement, the record of that easement, and we've assured our abutters that we will comply to the letter of the law and the spirit of the agreement of that easement to comply with our rights over that property and our neighbors' rights over the property. So in the sense that it's there's an open dialogue about what this project will do, but we certainly cannot do anything other than honor our obligations under the easement and require that our neighbors do the same. So it's resolved in the sense that the easement exists and everyone knows about it and we know what we have to do. So
thank you.
That's where we're at.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, please.
Sure.
The entrance off of the Revere Beach Parkway onto your site that you say is only going to be one way.
Correct.
Onto the site, and a few cars can exit that way, correct?
That is right. I'll pull this up again. That's right. So you'll be able to turn into the site and do a turnaround. If you were a taxi or we're dropping someone off, picking someone up, you can make that maneuver. But once you enter into the site proper, you won't have the ability to reverse direction and come back out that way.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
It's one way in.
Locust Street. Is it Locust Street or is it Locust Ave?
My understanding was it was Locust Street.
Okay, we'll use that term for the rest of the night then.
Sure.
That's going to be a one-way.
That is correct. It'll be one way in the westbound direction. So
westbound meaning I can only exit onto Vale Street.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Good. What are the major exits off the site then? It would be off of Locust Street and the two curb cuts on Boston Street.
Right. So
okay.
if you were heading Revere Beach Parkway eastbound, I suspect you're more likely to travel out of the Boston Street exit, make the right hand turn to Revere Beach, and continue eastbound. If you were heading on to Vale Street southbound, you could do either. You could come out Boston Street and make that maneuver, or you come out to Locust and make the left-hand turn there. To get to Revere westbound, you would need to get to Vale Street, come up to the signalized intersection and make that left. You wouldn't be able to reverse direction to access the
traffic study, Sean. Have they determined, and it's probably a hard thing to say, which way the majority of traffic is going to go, whether they're going to go come out of Boston Street, and obviously you have to take a right and go up the Parkway, which is you're going east, or versus coming off of Vale Street, going all the way up to the Parkway, and from there you can proceed to Boston. So is the thought that more cars are going into the Boston route or going, let's say, down the Revere Beach route?
The bulk of the traffic we have will be coming out of Locust Street and then making the left-hand turn southbound to make their way down to access Route 1.
Why would they go left? Why would they make a left-hand turn and go southbound? Where are they going?
Well, we have them going down to Carter Street, and then from Carter Street, you can travel east and access Route 1 that way as the easiest way to get down towards the city.
So you're getting back into the intersection of Carter Street and Everett Avenue.
That's correct. But you won't be able to make that maneuver from Locust because Locust is one way.
Right, and you've made that study. Have you ever gone down there during the school, getting in and out down there, what that looks like, versus taking your calculations off of a book? Has anybody gone down to that intersection and watched what happens down there in the morning?
I don't think we've had the opportunity to, because I don't think the schools have been in session since
I will agree with the whole thing. That's why I'm bringing that up. I think a lot of the assumptions are done from the book, as you were pointing out, and I think once school gets back in next year, of course, by then it'll be too late because this project will be approved. You're going to find a disaster down there, just to let you know.
Yeah, I will say one thing I would point out is that when we did this study, we did do a new count to take a look at how it compared, COVID, post-COVID, and we realized that the combination of people, not commuting to work and the schools not being open, the volumes didn't really make any sense to use. So we're relying on counts that were done before the COVID situation. So we aren't using any data that, would be influenced or artificially low. Everything was done with the schools in session, pre.
You have an intersection down there, let's say last year, doesn't function right at all, especially in the morning, in the evening, kids getting out. And then again at 5 o'clock, that intersection backs up onto the Parkway constantly. It needs a lot more attention than I think that you can give it, because I don't think it can be designed to handle the traffic of your 800 units and the 700 units that are going to come up also, and eventually the 650 that are going to come up where wood waste is. So all I can say is, you guys come in with these projects and we're left with the residuals of it for the traffic. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, I've yet to see a traffic study that's negative to the applicant. You all come up with all these nice things to say about, oh, we're going to take care of the intersection. And the one I'm mostly concerned with is the Revere Beach Parkway and Everett Avenue. And if I had my way, I wouldn't even approve this project until you people actually can give us a print or a game plan of how you're going to rectify that intersection. It's only an intersection. You can't build it out. You can't build it up. You can't build it down. It's there. Other than the timing of lights, it's the only way it would seem feasibly possible to make that functional. So I would really recommend between now and whenever, before this project is approved, that you and the DOT, will have no faith in it all with them, get together and give us a game plan. Okay, because does that make sense, Sean?
No, it does. And again, we are committed to looking at that intersection. We will be doing a full study of its operation.
Because I went through this with wood waste. We went through it with their people coming off of Boston Street, taking the right onto the Parkway, and how they said, oh, you're just going to time the lights so the flow of traffic is in a group and there'll be a timing in between it. And I said, really? I said, and then someone pushes the walk light at Everett Avenue and throws the whole cycle off, and it backs up right across Boston Street. You can't get out. So again, these intersections that you talk about, we really need to get hard evidence that you're going to make them work, other than someone just saying, oh yeah, we're going to handle it. Okay, Sean? I really think we're owed that. I think the people are going to live there, and the people such as myself, who used to try to go down to Ferramos, I come out of Chelsea Street, I gave up. I couldn't get across the Parkway. You can't get down Everett Avenue to Ferramos. So it's just observation on my part, not guesswork. I've gone through it constantly. I've gone into Chelsea my whole life. But anyway, if you can take care of that, I would really appreciate it. I don't think I'm going to get into anything else as far as traffic is concerned, because those are the major points. When we get into the architectural point of it, or the site layout, we talked about rounding out that turn into the site off of the Parkway. So it's not a sharp turn, it's a sweeping turn. So the cars will flow much better in. So they won't be, you actually have to almost stop to make a turn to get in there, and you're going to get rear-ended. And if it were, as it is right now, a sweeping turn, that's why they made it that way. Their architect knew that to get into that site, you better not slow down or you're going to get rear-ended. So I'd like to see that. There you go, right in there, coming in off the Parkway. That has to be, if you make a right-hand turn a 90, you have to slow down almost to a dead stop to turn.
Well,
versus
yeah,
a sweeping turn.
No, and there certainly is a design intent there to slow vehicles down, because again, this isn't just serving, vehicular traffic. This ultimately will also be a shared driveway that's serving the bike traffic coming to the site. So we certainly don't want people making that corner at a high clip of speed.
No, you don't want them dragging it either, to the point where they're going to get rear-ended, because all of a sudden he decides to put this directional on and take a right-hand turn, and the guy's up his butt because they thought he was going straight, which happens constantly down there. So
no, I mean, ultimately we can review it, but again, this is MassDOT's jurisdiction. So ultimately, the geometry they look for there is their fault. But the point is taken.
I don't put a lot of faith in them, because we drive the Parkway constantly, and it's a zoo down there, and they're the ones that are in charge of it. So I'm kind of relying on you guys. I think you got a lot more expertise in the subject than they do, because proof and fact is, drive the Parkway and tell me it's a great street, and who's in charge? DOT. Go down to Santilli Circle, who's in charge? Whatever. Okay, I'll pass as of now until we get to some other items. Thank you, Sean.
Oh, thank you.
Sure, and just to follow up on that as well, we do, at the last meeting, we did ask for Howard Stein Hudson to review the traffic information as well. So they're going to be working with us, Finesse and Associates, with some comments. And we'll actually have Carrie Pike from the last, who reviewed the Garvey Street and Norman Street projects from Howard Stein Hudson at our next meeting on October 26th, presenting their findings.
Thank you, Shane. Were there any other members with questions on the traffic as we've presented and as Sean has laid out for us? So, well, thank you, Sean, and we will look forward to the productive work that will hopefully come from the peer review that's been commissioned by this board, and maybe there is some hope, Mr. Brezzano, in not having the traffic move too slow, where you can't get to Ramos, or move too fast, where people are getting mowed down.
Thank you. I missed the steak tips down there. Dave.
Chairman, at least it didn't take out again. So if I can, I guess, move the presentation to Lynn. As you know, this project being in the Commercial Triangle Economic Development District is subject, as all of our properties are, to our affordable housing bylaw. And we have, I'm sorry, Shane, will you?
Yeah, I think Sergeant Gaff was going to mention something. So I'm also.
I'm sorry if I was asked by Mr. Soper to jump in on this week. And if I could just get my name and number to the traffic people, I would talk to them onto the side. But I mean, there's some, I'm the traffic commissioner also and sergeant in charge of traffic. Just there's some concerns regarding Vale Street, Boston Street area. And just on the traffic commission meeting this week, Vale Street is going to become restricted side parking on both sides because of the mess that's down there now. That's on the traffic commission for next week. So I didn't know if you knew that it was going to be no parking on both sides of Vale Street. So I figured I'd let you know that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it. I don't know if Sean was, but
Yep. So that's on the traffic commission meeting for this week, just to the fact of the nightmare that's going on with the builders from the other projects blocking the street and all that stuff that's going on that we can talk about in the future when you're ready to build about on-site parking, off-site parking, which is a different time. But I would love to sit with the traffic guys at a separate time, maybe not take up your time, and just go over the Boston Vale Street area because it is a real nightmare down there.
Sure. You could certainly reach out offline.
Yep. Yep. I don't want to tie everybody up.
Yep. I'll hopefully see you in the square tomorrow if you're working, and if not, I'll reach out to you at the station and put that together.
Yeah, I'll swing down and see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So with nothing else on traffic, I was queuing up Lynn with our affordable housing presentation, and I really, it's a great program and much needed, and we've hired a very capable consultant in Lynn Sweet. And Lynn, if you can. I'm looking to see if you are in Zoom land here.
I'm here. Good
There you are.
evening.
There you are. Did you? I apologize. My mind's a little bit fried at the moment. Did you have a visual that you were?
I do. I think it's probably the next slide. I'm not sure who. If maybe I can get some help from Sean.
Who's got control?
I only have my presentation, so I can't help with that.
Okay. So do you want me to?
I think Shane, was it in the? I think it was in the board package. So.
Do you have something offhand, Lynn? Or
Hang on.
I could.
I got it on the presentation. If you want to, I can share the screen.
Yeah, whomever.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it.
Perfect. Nope, we're just stealing screens from each other. Whomever.
Okay, I have it.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Lynn Sweet from LDS Consulting Group. We're based in Newton, Massachusetts, and I'm very happy to be here. As you may know, that the zoning ordinance does have an affordability requirement, and the team has prepared a comprehensive inclusionary housing plan. It includes information on the affordability and the pricing. It includes the location, the initial location of the affordable units, and it also provides the affordable fair housing and resident selection plan. So essentially 40 of the units, or 5%, will be affordable to households earning 80% of the area median income. Everett is located in the Boston, Cambridge, Quincy area. And we have actually taken a straight 5% of all of the different unit types, both small and large studio units, as well as 1-bedrooms and 1-bedroom dens. The units themselves are self-pay, and really what that means is that most people will need to have a job to live in these units and be able to afford the rent, meaning that they're not subsidized by a governmental agency. The management company will be working with Maloney Properties, who is going to be in charge of filling the affordable units, and anyone living in the building will have to be income qualified and credit and Corey checked. All 40 units will be counted on the town's subsidized housing inventory. And the town has the ability to request that 70% of 40 units have a local preference, meaning that people that are living, working, or have, or families that have children going to school in town will have first preference for the units the first time that they are leased out. Each unit, each affordable unit will have one assigned parking space at no cost. And the building will be ADA compliant. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, and I don't know when the team goes through the architecture, but all the units are designed as type 1 handicap accessible and will provide accessibility to the unit and accessibility in bathrooms and bedrooms. And then in accordance with the ADA requirements, 5% or 40 of the total units, not just the affordable units, will be designed as handicapped accessible as well, including 2 of the affordable units. If you want to go to the next slide. So I've outlined on this slide the income limits today. These are 2020 income limits. Income limits change every spring. The thought is that next spring, the income limits are actually going to go down due to COVID-19. Therefore, the state is requesting that rents be held at 2019 rents. So that's why you're seeing 2019 rents. The thought is that although they went up in 2020, they will come back down in 2021. And I did apologize. I did notice a typo under the large studios. The unit utility allowance is should be 122. So the rents for the large and small studios, those net rents should be the same. The utility allowance is basically what utilities the tenant will be paying for, so that at the end of the day, the combination of the utility allowance and the net rents are what HUD allows. So in my chart, the tenant will actually be paying out of pocket, for example, on a studio, $1,439. We have also provided a plans in the next couple of slides that show where we've located the affordable units, and a lot of care has been taken in identifying the affordable units. I'm sure it's pretty hard to see on the screen, but we've given them colors, we've given them the letter A. And really the goal for this under the fair housing is to not have affordable units located next to each other on the floor and not have them stacked on each other as the floors are stacked, so that they really are evenly spread out throughout the building. And we've provided the initial location of the affordable units because basically if somebody living in an affordable unit is over income and therefore doesn't qualify to live in an affordable unit anymore, that unit will become a market rate unit and another unit in the building will be chosen. Therefore, they are considered initial locations and they are floating units. The other thing is that, and therefore the interiors of all the affordable units will be the exact same interiors of the market rate units. So you won't be able to tell the difference on the outside of the unit or the inside of the unit. And that is really all that I'd like to say tonight, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. The care that goes into putting the affordable unit plan together is evident, and it takes its guidance from the DHCD guidelines, which obviously continue to be required. We need to get approval from that agency for the program. But in terms of this board, any questions or comments on the application for approval of our affordable housing special permit.
Only question I'd have is you definitely have a AUL on this building.
There's a recorded AUL. It is, yes, there is one.
Okay, thank you.
Somewhere in my pile, I have the book and page and document number, but it's there.
I think it was provided at the last set of plans at the last meeting.
So yes, that is correct. So, Mr. Planner, Shane, I don't know that we actually have anything more to present on our affordable unit special permit application.
Sure.
I don't know if that's something the board is prepared to or would like to vote on today. I know we've got a long way to go with our site plan approval, but to get that kind of on the books.
It would be at the bequest of the board, essentially, just making sure that anything, if any plans change, it's reflective of whatever updated plans. So I don't know if the unit count's going to change or anything, but it's up to the board in terms of their comfort. Typically what we're looking for is that set unit number for what the market rate is and what the affordable percentage is going to be. So, the number, if there was an approval and there was anything that changes with your project, that you would have to come back for a site plan modification, which would require a special permit modification. So, the information that you've provided is, correct and adequate enough with, a marketing plan and information about the ADA, with the affordable unit mixture within the building, also providing that you had the information of the AOL. So it's up to the board. I'm comfortable with what you provide with the inclusionary zoning, but note that throughout different information and new information that the board provides, that if there's any changes to that, you're at risk with any sort of changes to the special permit. So, but that's also at the behest of DHCD reviewing your inclusionary zoning as well.
I don't know that we necessarily, you raised a good point there. Plans change and things develop. So maybe we'll leave that as an open item and have the record established. And at some point, if our plans do not change, it would require a change in our affordable scheme. Then we would maybe look for a vote then.
All right, whatever.
So thank you, Lynn. As I hopefully said earlier, we do have our team here, and I know that there were questions raised at the last meeting. I don't want to prolong our meeting. I know the board needs to hear from our traffic peer review, so there's certainly no finality expected this evening. And I know you have other items on your agenda, but I do want to give you the opportunity, members of the board, to ask away. And I know that I'm certain that Joel would be open to any questions you might have, or if the board's pleasure is to schedule a return meeting, we will reassemble.
Well, we did ask an awful lot of questions at the last meeting, Dave. I don't know if anybody wrote them all down. We did talk about quite a few items. So,
yeah, I mean, we did. I guess I don't know if you have anything that comes to mind. There were a number of things that we addressed. And
we talked about the color of the brick, dark color. We were thinking about lighting, maybe getting a lighter brick down there. 20% of the brick around the building. We talked about gas meters concealed, side vents coming out, site utilization plan. That's gonna go through the ISD, but you should be submitting it to them. They shouldn't be showing you what they want. You should be submitting it, and it should go through the board so that we can see what you're talking about as far as truck routes, crane locations, shakedown areas. What are you gonna do out in the streets? How often are you gonna sweep the streets? We asked a lot of questions the last time. We asked about, we can pick this up next time. What does the MBDA have to say about the additional riders from this project that this project will generate? Have they commented on committing more buses to the Silver Line? What is their plan for the pedestrian crossing over the railroad tracks at the Silver Line when you come up Everett Avenue? And again, this is more safety, maybe not even under our jurisdiction, but we are a board that is required to look into the safety of the people going into these buildings. And that was one of them, again, what we talked about. Who wishes, I had a question for Sean, I guess, too, Shane, rather.
Sure.
The special permit for the height requirement, the 100 feet versus the 85 feet. That we wanted to look into.
Yeah, it goes up to 100 feet. So if the applicant chooses to go to up to 100 feet for their buildings, that's their special permit.
Who issues the special permit? Us?
That'd be the planning board.
Okay.
Within the commercial triangle district, there are special permits that the planning board would approve comparative to the zoning board, such as inclusionary zoning.
Yep. Okay, I thought so, but I just want to make sure that the applicant knows that.
Sure.
I did ask other questions too about interacting with wood waste, as Joe Gaff points out. There's a lot of going on down there right now, and you guys haven't even started yet. Neither has wood waste. In Vale Street's a disaster, and the Pioneers got to get their people out of that building up Vale Street to the Silver Line. So, you put a game plan together to present to us how you're going to treat that as a safety? What's your safety plan for moving people up Vale Street, past your project, and coming back the other way? We need a game plan on that. We just can't say when you're building, we'll look into it. I've been in construction all my life, and the first thing you do is the applicant will present to us, call us the owner of the city, how you're going to treat the pedestrian traffic on Vale Street. And Andy Montelli from the Pioneer was absolutely committed that his people are well protected, and we, the board, did guarantee that would happen when this project we didn't know about, but Wood Waste project was one of the main ones. We talked to them extensively on safety coming up Vale Street. So that was one of the things that we wanted to talk about. So there were a lot of questions the last time. If you write all this down, we can pick up the next time. We're not going to sit here all night with this one.
So just to respond quickly to a couple of them, and Joel and team, please pop in. We will be providing masonry on the building in keeping with the design guidelines. I think that we mentioned that last week. That's a 20% requirement, and we will be providing that. With respect to MBTA ridership and capacity and crossings, it is something that we are reaching out to the MBTA on, but also anticipate that the TMA and the TDM and the city's traffic consultant will be working with not just vehicular traffic, but one of the city's requirements, and in keeping with the traffic mitigation plans that you are pursuing, is to also have an active bike lane and other means of transportation. Whether biking becomes as robust as traffic, I think we can all agree that that's vehicular traffic, that's not probably the case, but it will certainly reduce some of the traffic burden and some of the mobility to and from the Silver Line and the future Blue Line down at the end of Vale Street. On those, I think that they were tangentially addressed as part of our commitment to participate in the traffic not just with the traffic consultant, but in the traffic association for the district. As Sean mentioned, we will be adding a sidewalk on Vale along the entirety of our frontage. That won't just be a sidewalk with a parking garage. That will be a sidewalk that will be predominantly commercial activity. We're committed to not just working with the developers of wood waste with respect to street crossings and bike lane crossings, but also with adding vibrancy to that Vale Street corridor. I think that having commercial activity, not just a Wendy's at the end of the block and a Stop and Shop mid block, and then two large construction projects dueling across the street, will also add some much needed activity that will help that. I certainly anticipate Bowler will share the site utilization plan that you requested shortly, and but I certainly anticipate that working with Sergeant Gaff, we will come up with a much more robust and internally policed methodology for our construction activities and where they're parking. I mean, obviously we were down on site today. We did notice that there were certainly a lot of street parking, but we also noticed that next to Pioneer there was also a lot of open spaces, and obviously we have to commend our predecessor and trailblazer in the district before Mr. Montelli, and how well he treated that street. Walking up that block was actually really nice. We anticipate, as we add that level of beautification to that block, there will be a lot less of that trash and construction debris and traffic and incidental stuff that's going on there. People tend to, and this is my personal opinion, but people tend to take care of the places that they live, and right now there's just not that many people living in there. Obviously with the 85 the wood waste site project, our project, the Fairfield project coming online, that's going to change. And I think that there'll be a lot more Everett and Chelsea residents that will be also policing that to some degree. And again, we'll be parking over 900 parking spaces on our site alone. So we're certainly going to be be providing our share of off-street parking. So hopefully that, I know that doesn't answer all of your questions, and Mr. Pisano, we will be fully concealing the bottoms of all of our Juliet balconies and decks. I know that at the last meeting it may have been said that they would be painted. They will be fully encapsulated in the same material. So it's going to be a good, beautiful look. We do listen, we do take notes, and we do mean to respond. With respect to the sweeping turn at the entrance, it's something that we're studying. We're working with DOT. I know that we had meetings with DOT. We don't want to provide such a sweeping, so much of a sweeping entrance that cars can zip in the way that I was watching cars zip into the Stop and Shop lot today. We do want to attempt to slow them down to some degree, but I do agree with you, a 90-degree turn with a very small radius is probably not the answer, and there's something that DOT would be open to, that would be closer to what you're looking for. So I certainly agree with that. We've seen the traffic, and I know that the sentiment of there's no proponent or no per applicant that's going to show a negative traffic outcome in their analysis. However, the situation with the grocery store and commercial, and I was listening to the earlier discussion about a restaurant versus residential. It's they are different traffic patterns. They are, and I think as Sean mentioned, we do show a spike, so additional traffic to what's there in the mornings. It's just that the overwhelming amount of traffic in the evenings does take away or does kind of cancel out a lot of the morning traffic. And I also think that our residents and the residents of Pioneer who we've actually spoken to, Pioneer came online obviously before the pandemic and while the school was open. And I think in talking to some of those residents, even as recently as today, they, for lack of a better term, will bird dog and take the Vale Street lit intersection to Revere Beach Parkway, north or south, as an alternative to something that they find as a congested traffic location further down the street. But we do plan to study that. Sean is committed to providing the accident. Sean, I can't remember what the terminology was, but it was something that Mass DOT requested. We immediately accepted. We think it's important that the intersections on and near our property that our residents and the neighborhood are using are safe, and we will do what we can, and hopefully that means more than just signaling, but that's certainly a start.
Thank you. And one of the intersections too, Sean, that we did bring into light at the last one of the other meetings with Pioneer was the intersection of Boston and 2nd Street. You should include that into your traffic study, because if people are going to go down Boston Street that want to go into Boston, of course they have the access from Vale, but again, if that's jammed, like you just said, they're going to go down further and they're going to try to get on Boston Street. So if you'd look at that one, would appreciate it. Thank you.
Moving along, please.
Does anybody else have any? We do have both Joel and Steve Materano. Joel from BH+A, our architect, and Steve Materano from Bowler and Engineering. If there are any questions about some of the presentation from last week, or if anyone wanted to see our beautiful project.
No, I think we left a lot of the things for Steve with Greg, because those sections 28 and 29 that we spent a year on with the wood waste people, only to have it not even be implemented, is now with Greg St. Louis, good man. He'll take care of it. So that is the burden on us. So
we've spoken to Greg as well. I agree. Great guy. And we've also committed to working with the city on all the I&I and even some creative solutions for solving some of the other drainage problems in the vicinity. We do know that Chelsea and combination of Chelsea and Everett have raised Vale Street to some degree to mitigate a lot of that, a lot of the low spot. But we will obviously work with DPW and Greg and the city to make sure that we're helping, not exacerbating.
We never really got a clear, definitive idea of what was happening on the Vale Street from one end to the other, because there was a lot of existing structure there. They went down to Locust. They put a whole new pipe out to the outcropping out wherever that goes, where the head wall is out there, and they rebuilt a lot. But boy, you guys coming along was kind of a surprise. I think. I hope, and not up to me. It's up to Greg and Steve to iron out. You're going to have enough pipe's big enough down there to handle your outflow, basically. And again, that's not with this board. So I'll leave that with Greg and Steve. Thank you.
And just to confirm, we will continue to meet with Greg. We're probably meeting with him, every 3 weeks or so, just to review our progress and make sure we're aligned with what the project's doing and what we know. There's a lot of initiatives and other projects in the area, so we're just making sure we're staying aligned and aware what's going on and what the city's initiatives are and how we can help participate in those. So just for the board's knowledge, we're very much engaged with Greg and will continue to do so through the process.
Yeah, and that whole area down there, Vale Street, was a flood zone up till a few years ago. Used to be on the news every time. Cars would float through there in a heavy rain. They took care of a lot of it. But a lot of that piping is still old piping that goes out to the Mystic River or wherever it goes out to. And that was always a big concern with everybody. Yeah, you're putting new piping everywhere, but you're tying into a lot of old pipe. Just something to think about, that's all. I would hate to see all this work done and you get a collapsed structure down line, and next thing Vale Street's underwater. That's why all the buildings were raising up an additional foot, going up to what, elevation 10 now down there? 11 rather, excuse me, thank you, Avi, to get out of the floodplain. So there was a reason for that. And a lot of the reason was collapsing of very old pipes down there. So anyway, whatever.
We certainly agree. I think, infrastructurally, we want to make sure that, we are adding to the, we are helping versus exacerbating the situation. We certainly don't want to make the investment only to see it crumble due to lack of foresight with respect to infrastructure. So we will continue to work with Greg and his team on that. I guess a couple things that updates from the last time. I know that we walked through a lot of the benefits of the project and the exciting things about the project. We have continued to meet with restaurateurs for the potential spaces on site. We've also met with and had our initial MIPA discussions and been discussing the potential of renewable energy sources on site, between whether that's various levels of solar and water water recapture and reuse. And I think that there are certainly a lot of infrastructural challenges. I think that the benefits, while we will deal with those as well, the benefits certainly outweigh in our mind the challenges. But we will certainly meet those as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Avi, and thank you, Mr. Pisano. So, we've got. I know that we can continue on and kind of flesh out our answers to the specific questions. I think we've got some substantive work to do to be able to report back to this board in terms of our site utilization and landscape plan and some of the other things that are arising from the traffic study. As a scheduling matter, I'm trying to get a obviously we want to be productive with our time with you, and I think that we will have enough accomplished in very short order that it would make sense for us to return on the 26th with some specific answers. Shane, I don't know if we're going to have our traffic peer review done by that time. Have they given you any sense of a?
They actually gave me the sense that they wouldn't be able to do this meeting, but the next meeting on the 26th. So from my understanding, that Howard Stein Hudson will have some initial information and be in attendance at the 26th.
Okay, well, I think that sounds like that would be our request to be back for you on the 26th and follow up with some of the board's questions and get more in depth and responsive to that peer review.
If I can jump in through you, Mr. Chair, this is a continued public hearing, and if the board is about to consider a motion to continue, I didn't know if you wanted to hear from any members of the public that may have stayed on tonight to comment.
Oh, of course.
Is there anyone out there who would like to comment?
Yes, we have Attorney Hanley representing the abutters. If you'd like to speak.
I just wanted to speak briefly to Mr. O'Neill's statement about our easements. It's our view that the site plan before you directly interferes with those easements. We haven't had any substantive discussions about amending them. And I believe that, and if you've read the body of the easements, they provide for general access through what is shown as the transformer pads across the property, generally to an exit on Boston Street. That is for commercial and industrial traffic out of my client's properties. I don't see anything about this plan that is capable of preserving those easements without modification. And I don't see that this plan is capable of moving forward without it. The easements themselves provide that they cannot be modified except by a unanimous agreement of all of the interest holders in the easements. And these easements were written at the time in recognition of the fact that the Everett Associates property had a competitive advantage over the other two. It's the two little guys standing next to the giant, and for that reason, the unanimity was and remains a very important component of any attempt to modify. Further, these easements provide the only exit from both of these properties and need to be maintained not only by the ultimate development, but through the construction process. And I haven't seen or heard anything that suggests that there's been any consideration given to that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Handy. Any other comments?
Yeah, just a comment. We're in the process of reviewing the language as well, so we'll follow up with the board with any other, and plans could change as well in regards to the information provided. So, we'll keep you updated on everything.
Thank you. At this time, hearing none, Jonathan, in a motion for continuance.
Make the motion for continuance to October 26th with the public hearing remaining open for 1690 Revere Beach Parkway, site plan review, special dimensional permits, and inclusionary zoning special permit.
Is that 7 p.m. via Zoom?
Yes.
At 7
Okay, thank
p.m. via Zoom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded to continue 1690 Revere Beach Parkway with all his addendums to October 26th. Roll call vote, please.
Sure. George D'Angelo,
Yes.
James Tarr,
Yes.
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Leo Pisano,
Yes.
Chairman Frederick Cavasso.
Yes.
All
Motion
right.
is continued.
All right. We'll see you on the 26th.
Thank you.
Thanks,
very much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members.
You're welcome, Mr. O'Neill.
All right. Last but not least, we have new business, which is a informal presentation by a project that will be coming before the board at 2nd and Vine Street, where the applicant is looking to do some mixed-use properties at 350 units housing and retail. They're just doing, there will be no vote. So the presentation is for informational purposes only, and no vote will be taken by the board. So a full presentation will be made at the public hearing for the December 7th, 2020 meeting, in accordance to our ordinance and MGL 40A as applicable. So just a nice little informal meeting just to get the juices flowing for an upcoming project in December. So if the applicant is here to present, we're here to watch.
Great. Good evening. I'm John Block. I'm the developer of the project on the corner of 2nd and Vine Streets that we'll be talking about this evening. My company, Block Properties, owns and manages several hundred units of rental housing in and around Greater Boston. We're very excited to be in front of the planning board with this roughly 320 unit plus retail project that we feel will transform a currently industrial site into something that will contribute to the revitalization of the commercial Triangle District. I'd like to thank the planning board for making the time tonight for this informational presentation. We look forward to your feedback. We plan to submit our project, as Shane mentioned, later this month for a December 7th formal hearing. I'd like to hand it over now to Johanna Schneider from Hemingway and Barnes, who will further introduce the project and the rest of the team.
Thanks, John, and thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's very nice to be back before you this evening. I know it's been a long night, and we appreciate you making room on the agenda for us to give you an introduction to what we think is an exciting addition to Everett's downtown. With me are Tamara Roy from Stantec, who's the project architect. We also have Shawna Gillies-Smith from Ground. She is our landscape architect. You guys know Steve Martirano from Buller. He's in his same square that he's been in all evening. And we also have Ray Matrano from Waypoint. So we are here to do the introduction of the team and also the project, which, as John said, is at the junction of 2nd Vine and Boston Streets. It is an approximately 3.1 acre site, and it is located within the Commercial Triangle Economic Development District. We are proposing to create approximately 320 residential units with 450 accessory parking spaces and about 4,000 square feet of ground floor retail. The project is going to be fully compliant with all applicable zoning requirements in the CTED district. We want to highlight that we're actually even exceeding the minimum required open space by 5,000 square feet in order to create a really lovely urban oasis within this project, and you'll hear more about that shortly. As Shane mentioned, tonight's presentation is purely informational. You'll be seeing a lot more of us and the project over the next few months, and we appreciate this opportunity to share with you what we have in mind for the site. As John said, we are looking to file an application for site plan approval and also an inclusionary by the end of this month. And we hope to be back before you at the board's December 7th meeting. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tamara Roy from Stantec.
Nice to see you all. I just want to say at the beginning that my internet is going in and out a little bit tonight, so I hope it's going to hold for this presentation. If not, there are members on my team that can continue. Our agenda for tonight is quick. It's just an introductory. We're going to show you some pictures of the site, our urban design approach and our site plan, and our exterior design. So the site is on the corner of Boston Street and 2nd Street. And we're just going to show some approach shots. So right now you're coming along 2nd Street, and our site is there in blue. Again, just a little closer to the Boston and 2nd Street intersection, our site being on the right. You're just turning around the self-storage building in a moment. So here we are now, our site's on the left. We're turning down Boston Street. We're approaching Vine Street, that corner with the 2 little residential houses and the industrial building beyond. Turning onto Vine Street, more industrial warehouses there in the background. Going again a little bit farther down Vine Street, and then to West 3rd. So our approach to the site has been really to make our front door along 2nd Street. We know in the future that that is going to be, the main street in this area. The T will probably go down the middle of the street. And so that's our front door. Since we are kind of in a gritty district right now, we're putting green buffers along Boston Street and Vine Street and setting back our building there so that, in anticipation of, a future residential project or other things happening across the street from us. On our back edge, we're also putting buffers, pulling our buildings away from the edge because we're not exactly sure what's going to happen there in the future. And instead, we sort of wrapped our building around this green oasis along in the middle of the site. So we know we're in the transform area of the Commercial Triangle, and we definitely see our project as part of the future transformation of this neighborhood. We've been looking at the design guidelines and making sure that our ground floor uses are active. And there's some residential, there's some retail. It's actually very special, I think, what we're doing because we're not doing a podium project. You always see, 1 or 2 levels of parking and then residential on top, but our project is not a podium project. And we'll describe that in a minute. And we've done a lot to articulate the massing so that it feels like a number of blocks put together, not one big project. Here again is a reminder of our site. The setbacks that are required by zoning are quite small. They're 10 feet around the red areas. There's just 5 feet along Vine Street and West 3rd, and a 0 front yard setback along 2nd. We also have an easement cutting through our site, this light red area through the middle. So our site plan, as I mentioned, is sort of a donut, and it wraps around this green courtyard that's actually at grade, which is, nice. It's our oasis. We're able to put bigger sized trees in there, a pool, other things. We have our retail activating 2nd Street, and Shauna is going to talk about the landscape there. We have units on Boston Street and Vine Street to activate those edges. And some nice setbacks for trees and some little porches and a nice wide sidewalk on both of those areas. The easement cuts through here, but the buildings go above it. You'll see that shortly. And then our service drive comes around off of 2nd Street in one way, around here, the back. And here we've had some conversations with the fire department to make sure that their fire trucks can do that maneuver as well and reach all the sides of the project. And then most importantly, what actually gets us to not having a podium project is that we have a freestanding garage, which we put on West 3rd Street, and which we get to, it's good because it's out of the way. If there's any queuing in or out of this parking garage, it's happening away from the traffic on 2nd Street. And it's giving us also this little dog park area over there. So our massing is a 6-story building, 5 over 1, and it's a 70-foot maximum height. And we just have a little pop-up at the entrance and a roof garden on the terrace. The 2nd Street existing right-of-way is 50 feet, and that includes the sidewalks. But in the future, we know the plan is for it to be widened to 80 feet so that we can have the bus lanes, the drive aisles, a bike lane, a protected bike lane, and a reasonable sidewalk with trees. So now I'm going to pass it to Shauna to talk about how we are reacting to that proposed and future condition.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having the tenacity to stay so late this evening. We're extremely excited about this project. And so when we're thinking about 2nd Street, as Tamara mentioned, we understand this as the front door of the project. And we understand this as a project that really is going to contribute to the future character of 2nd Street. So we want it to be lively, to be active, and to be animated with a strong indoor-outdoor connection. As Tamara mentioned, the idea is having retail on the street as well. We also know that this street has to bridge a couple of different conditions in time. The near future condition and then the condition of the full build out. So what we're trying to do is create a strategy that puts in the curb lines, you can't actually see it on this plan, but you'll see it in the views in a minute, puts the street trees in the right place, and then gives the geometry for the future bicycle lane. We're not proposing to put the bicycle lane in this condition because it doesn't go anywhere for the short term. Then we can just click through a couple of views of what that might look like. So this would be a view in the short term when we first build it out with a planted buffer of street trees and planting and some seating as well as some parking in the temporary condition. And then the future condition is basically the same. We're removing a little bit of planting and putting in the bicycle lane. And then there's the other view of it. And you can see the relationship to the retail. So seating and planting kind of buffering the street condition in the short term, and then in the longer term, very similar, just with the addition of the bicycle lane. Tamara?
Great, thanks, Shauna. Thank you. And so for the exterior design, we were looking for something that would be warm and fresh and really attract the demographics that are going to be our future renters. Also looking at balconies, especially after COVID, people have been looking for a more outdoor space along with their unit. And we're looking for some efficient and interesting use of new materials and some pops of color. So this is our entrance view along 2nd Street. And you can see we're using that height that I talked about and these dramatic balconies at the corner to speak to our lobby entrance. We've got these warm materials of this wood fiber cement going down the side at our property line. And then this charcoal metal that sort of marches along in these verticals on the right-hand side. We also have red brick around our entire base, which is a nod to Leo and the industrial character of the existing neighborhood where there is quite a bit of red brick. As you come around to the corner of 2nd Street and Boston, you can see again this sort of movement we have with these vertical pieces marching down the block. The setbacks that Shauna was talking about with the lush landscape to protect us from the existing condition, but also, look toward a really nice future where people who have units along this can actually use those decks. We've got a lot of balconies also along the upper units here shown. This is a little close-up of that walking down Boston Street and Vine Street and those little decks we were talking about, some planting buffer, nice wide sidewalk, and then some trees interspersed with some park. As you come around Vine Street, you can see actually the opening, which is the easement, which is just a fenced area that you could come through if our neighbor ever needed to. But basically we're thinking of this as, sort of part of our design. So we will design that so that it's a beautiful thing when it's closed or open. Around to West 3rd Street, you can see again the units going around the base, the brick. We have our service entrance down here to the right. And then at this corner, the parking garage with a decorative screen on it, and our dog park, which is here, and a door to our bike room and the dog area. A little bit farther down is the entrance in and out of the parking garage. So being a bird for a second around to see the back of the building, which is on our property lines to our neighbors, and just seeing the rest of the parking garage and the way that we've broken down the building masses for the sort of entry lobby amenity building, the little bridge area that goes over the easement, and then the rest of the building here. So we're almost to the end. Just wanted to give you a little peek on the materials we're thinking about. And we have had conversations with the planning staff and sort of are aware of, some of the issues of dirt on the light gray corrugated metal that you see in the, I think it's the batch yard. So we are not proposing any silver metal because we do know that it does attract sort of pollution and should be cleaned more often. So we're only using a dark gray, which doesn't show the dirt as much. Anything that's light in our plan is a fiber cement textured panel, which doesn't tend to attract dirt in the same way. We also have a wood fiber cement panel here, number 3, and we have the red brick at the base. So lastly, we have some courtyard views. We're thinking about doing the undersides of the balconies in different colors, just so there's kind of a surprise in the courtyard. And you can see some of Shauna's work in terms of the landscaping of this courtyard and this lush interior with the pool and the cabanas and the lobby on the right here spilling out into that space. And looking the other direction, again, more views of the courtyard. I think it's going to be an amazing, amazing place. And that's why people are going to rent here, is that this is just going to be such a surprise. And that's it. So we're super happy to be here, as everyone has said, and welcome to, any initial reactions you have. that might help us before we do our submission at the end of the month. Thank you.
I guess the only thing I'd say is I like the use of the light colors. We've been trying to tell some of the, if you heard earlier, some of the bases of the buildings that they got to have the black brick all around it. Yours is just very nice looking. The underside of your balconies in different colors. You've used colors. It's the style. I know these days, everything you go into someone's house and it's gray and white. And my daughter did a bathroom over. I says, could you just do me a favor and put a green something on the wall? And when she did, it just, I thought it helped the place out a lot. Just a little color. Oh, and it did look good tomorrow. Thank you. The colors look nice.
Thank you for saying that, Leo.
Well, we appreciate a nice looking building, at least I do anyway. So, and that's, you have a nice looking project down there on the initial onset. We'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your presentations. So you on the 7th, is it?
December 7th, that's right.
December 7th.
December
Correct.
7th, yep.
Yes.
If they can get the material in on time. Don't hold them to that.
We're working on it.
Got to get it in physical form too. Come on.
That is our plan.
Okay. That's the first Monday of the month?
It's the first Monday of December, I believe.
And we meet on that day, not the 2nd?
Let me check quick. December 1st is a Tuesday.
Oh, December 1st is a Tuesday. Okay.
Right.
So, but the second Monday is when we meet.
I didn't make the schedule. So I guess we're on what we have on the 2020 schedule is just the December. Yeah, we have it as the first Monday of the month. But if
believe me, it'll be fine.
So if the board wants to have the meeting on the 14th, that's fine. But we have it on the 7th, scheduled for the 7th.
Okay.
I don't know if it's because of maybe there was some sort of issue with Hanukkah or I don't know.
Any other things to come before us tonight?
No, just the informal presentation by the board.
Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, we just have some communications from staff quickly before the board leaves, but
okay, what do we have?
Sure, we just want to talk after adjournment, of course. But we just want to thank Bowler and everyone, Stantec, for being here.
Thank you all for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I have to say, it was nice not to be waiting out in the halls of City Hall all night.
What do those poor people do to you in Framingham?
Yeah, nice to see you all. We'll see
Take
you
care.
later. Bye.
All right, see you later. Bye. All right, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Roll call vote, please.
Sure thing. James Starr,
Yes.
George D'Angelo,
Yes.
Michael O'Connor,
Yes.
Leo Pisano,
Yes.
Chairman Frederick Cafasso.
Yes, we are
All right,
adjourned.
we are adjourned. Let me just turn off on. Let me just